Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. Thank you guys for being here. Do not free Luigi, the guy who assassinated somebody. We are not going to simp for a assassin. Anyway, thank you guys for being on stream. Last night, we had an amazing live stream. It went for 4 hours, and we watched the entire NASA-sponsored podcast that also included a DOE member and I think somebody who's like something head of the Science Foundation or something like that. And it went all over 0-point energy, discussed 0-point energy, cold fusion, EM drive, warp drive, everything that we've been talking about. If you guys did not see it, highly recommend you check it out. We were even playing a little drinking game in the middle of it. It was awesome. Honestly, crazy stuff, guys. And I posted some clips as well. I retweeted some clips from people that were nice enough to make the clips from the live stream. So thank you guys very much for that. Might even post some more as well. I've got a bunch of clips that people have helped make that I'm going to be posting. Now, tonight, we're not going to go as long tonight. I want to get right into it because I can't stay up that late. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted, guys. But it's worth it, honestly. This is more fun than playing video games or watching movies or any stuff like that. Okay, so first thing I want to say, guys, is that I'm done with the drone stuff, honestly. Unless there's a major revelation in this drone situation, like, the truth is that it's been massive engagement farming for most people on Twitter with this drone situation. And the story of the drones has moved from, we started with Iranian motherships and alien invasions, and then it became about searching for dirty bombs and nukes. And now we got Tim Burchett saying that it was China. It actually is China. I'm like, okay, man. None of these people have any idea what the fuck they're talking about. None of these people have any idea what they're talking about. Everyone's throwing stuff to the wall, and everybody on Twitter is just farming it for engagement. And I'm done with it. I don't care that much about engagement, and there's no new revelations until the U.S. government comes out and shows us some military footage and infrared or thermal, where nothing's going to happen from this. We went past the point of hysteria where everybody was like posting pictures of airplanes and saying that UFOs are morphing into airplanes. And then we move now into the point where it's just like everybody's just trying to get a piece of whatever engagement they can find. That's when I check out. I say, nah, we're good with that. If there is major revelations, then probably I'll post it, but I'm not in this for the engagement farming at all. I do want to say that if they've made some algorithm changes, guys, wow. I'm going to show you guys my engagement over the last 2 weeks. It's actually wild to look at. I'm not generally one who cares about this kind of stuff, but I'll give you guys a quick insight in case you care. I don't know. It will be interesting to see what the payouts are like, because my account, I feel like, gets deboosted. Not deboosted necessarily, but like doesn't generally get, because I talk about conspiracy stuff, like I don't think I get a lot of advertisements and things like that on my stuff. Look at those engagements. This is insane. This is actually insane. Look at this. Look at these numbers. Millions every day. In fact, today, almost 4 million. Almost 4 million. I looked at this and I couldn't believe it. So I don't know if there was an algorithm change, because honestly, guys, if I were to go back like a month here, look at the difference. Look at the difference. Look at that. I was going from less than 1 million a day to the last week straight. I've been going over 2 million. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, so you got a little look behind the curtain here. And the other part, I would love to see what other people are, how many posts they make. I think that most other people post way more often than I do. You can see my ranges from like 2 or 3 posts to the maximum is like 15 in one day. Kind of interesting. So it's there definitely is. The case has been getting a lot more attention recently, and there was a giant post. Yeah, the drone stuff really actually boosted everything, and it boosted the case where everybody was out here. And thank you guys for the people like this who's been telling people about it. That's what we need to do. That's what we didn't need to do. We just need to wake people up. The drone stuff has put a light back onto the MH370 videos, and there was a major Reddit thread today as well, or yesterday, I guess. It looked like it was like 17 hours ago, and there were people actually realizing that the debunk stuff was fake, was fabricated, literally fabricated. Whereas most people are just like, that's so fake, that's so fake. Oh, but the Corridor crew told me that was fake. How they wouldn't lie to me? My favorite YouTuber wouldn't lie to me, right? It's like, so I'm glad to see the stuff change because the case is never going away and it's only going to gain momentum and we will get the truth eventually. So, yes, and I did do a recording with Redacted. So maybe actually I will play that real quick for you guys. Where is it? I don't think I played this yesterday, so I'm going to play this clip with Redacted for you guys.
I spoke to Ashton Forbes just a few minutes ago. Ashton Forbes is a physicist and an investigator and deeply connected to the study of the disappearance of Malaysian flight MH370. And he says, that he has a theory, at least on this drone piece, and he thinks that it makes sense that these would be out at night in some sort of a mesh to try to stop maybe perhaps an incoming hypersonic missile, if that was perhaps one of the reasons. But take a listen to his assessment of these potential drone sightings.
So we know that we've got full motion video coverage of the entire planet. This was actually admitted to in the UFO hearing just a month ago by both Michael Schellenberger and Tim Gallaudet. So we know what these drones are. Maybe the FBI doesn't know because they don't have access to that information, but the NRO, the CIA, the NSA, the NGA, these organizations know exactly what these drones are. So the question is, why are they lying to us about them? And I also think that drones has become the code word for UFOs now as well, which should make us wonder, what are these things flying around? Is there even somebody inside of some of these UFOs that we're seeing? Is that even a requirement? The theory that I kind of like the best, and also I just want to point out that Congress is apparently getting a classified briefing about these drones that are flying around as well. So if there was nothing there, why would they be getting a classified briefing about it? And some of the sightings have indicated that they are transmedium, that they might be coming out of the water. In other cases, they've been saying that they're not giving off any signals or any frequencies, which I'm not really sure what that means, but these could be some of the observables that we see in UFOs. Now, the flip side of it is there is mass hysteria going on right now. We've reached a point now where this is like, it's a self-perpetuating thing where people are now just misidentifying planes and other stuff. And they're claiming that they are, these UFOs or drones when they probably aren't. So there's a lot of mud in the water that's making it very difficult to sift through. The only way we could really get forward on an answer is if we were to get high quality, like military or intelligence grade, like infrared footage of one of these things where we could actually analyze it. And I think the likelihood of that is slim. Now, my personal theory that I like, that Clint Russell and I were talking about just a couple of days ago, was this idea that, like, what if these are some type of defense mechanism, like a mesh network, like a fence, essentially, that is set up, ready to intercept some type of hypersonic weapon, either coming from outer space or coming from like a submarine off the coast or somewhere else, where seconds matter. And even the deployment time would make it less likely that you'd be able to intercept an incoming ICBM or something like that. That would actually make sense in terms of why the local governments have no idea what's going on. And it would make sense in terms of why the federal government would not be able to speak about it and potentially do a classified briefing. Okay, well, that I like that last thing. Okay, let's start this rumor up. Ashton is married to Emerald. Guys, sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it. You know, we got Clayton Morris calling me physicist. Wonderful. I love it. Just fake it till you make it, and then it'll all come true. So let's start some rumors. By the way, you guys crack me up with the comments in the chat like all the time. When you see me here giggling, it's because I'm reading your guys' unhinged comments in the chat, and I love it. I love it. So keep it going. Okay, so I was on with Redacted. I think that it is going to probably drop in like a week or two. I sent a bunch of graphics for him to add in there. It's going to be updated to MH370. Obviously, that drone clip, we didn't talk too much about the drones, but just the beginning a little bit. And then it moves into exotic vacuum objects and plasmas and free energy after that. So I think it was pretty good. It was a little bit short, where it was probably about an hour long. So it's not going to be as in-depth, but it's still just a great conversation. Clayton Morris is awesome. I told him that I love his content. I love his open-mindedness. We talk a little bit about Tucker Carlson again, because I know that Clayton Morris has Tucker Carlson's ear. I specifically as well say, like, if Tucker Carlson's watching that interview, that Salvatore Pais says that he will go on Tucker Carlson with me, which should be like pretty mind-blowing, because you guys want to know something? News reporters have called Salvatore Pais, and he can't give any comments to news reporters, like, at all. So we have access to a guy that even the news agencies can't get access to. It's pretty incredible. Sal is amazing. Honestly, big shout out to Salvatore Pais. MH370X loves you, man. You're going to be a hero one day. No doubt. No question. Okay. Next thing. A lot of people have been spreading. I don't know why this has been going viral recently. This story, this paper here about plasmoids. So this is what the title of the live stream is all about. And we saw this a few months back, October 2024. Everybody was sending this to me back in October. I thought this was older. Maybe this got peer reviewed and maybe it only just now got published, but I've already read this. And what this is fundamentally about is that these researchers looked through a bunch of videos that are publicly available, especially like ISS ones and old photos. And they're trying to present the very strong case that plasmoids are this natural phenomenon and potentially could have consciousness themselves. What? Wow. So this is really interesting. We're not going to go through all of this, but I'll scroll through it a little bit with you and I'll give you guys my take. You guys have heard me probably on live streams. Oh, we got a first donation of the night. Thank you very much. Also, thank you guys so much for the donations last night. I was counting them. I think I got like 40 donations last night. You guys have been going crazy. Thank you very much. Some bucks for the cause. We are truly on a wild ride. Cheers to Salvatore Pais. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Ether Bunny, you've been here for a long time and you've been following for a long time. I recognize all you longtime OG people. Thank you very much. Thank you. So you guys have probably heard me on podcasts and on live streams talking about, like, what if there is an ether? We've got this ether of energy that's out there, right? The 0-point energy. It really makes you wonder, what is consciousness? Where does it come from? Where does our consciousness come from? Is it possible that any being, plant, human, animal, plasma, any being that has a permanent connection to the 0-point energy, aka it's always alive like we are until we're dead, what if that's what gives us consciousness? What if the energy itself is conscious? What if this ether of energy is a conscious being and we are just a part of it, one small part of that being? I've always loved this idea. Why have I loved this idea? Because of the story of the egg. We're not going to play it right now because last time I played the egg during my live stream, I had like 1 million people like somehow trying to like copyright it, or I don't know. But if you're not familiar with the story of the egg, you guys can look it up and find it. The idea of the egg is a religious and spiritual concept that we are all the same person and that we are living our lives through our local state, but we are interacting with ourselves, and every other person and every other being in this universe is us. And we're living through those lives, and time is just like a flat circle. And we move from one life to the next over and over and over again. It's really interesting concept. And I think that that connects highly to this idea of the conscious plasmas. It's a really weird idea, honestly. But the more I think about it, to me, it makes a lot of sense. I even had a long discussion. I'll go full screen for a second, and we'll go back to that paper. I had a long discussion with my dad a few months ago because my dad is a Buddhist. And I asked him, like, what was it that triggered you that you believed that Buddhism was like the right religion for you, you know? And the way that he got to it was different than how I kind of got to it. Him, it was like a journey of self-discovery, visiting India and things like that. And for me, I said, well, you know what it is for me is this idea of reincarnation that really sticks with me. This idea that when we die, our soul lives on and our soul might find another body and come back. And truthfully, that's why I've gone on podcasts and I've gone on live stream or X streams, and I've said that the religions that I'm actually Roman Catholic by nature and by my upbringing. And so, and I went to a Catholic high school and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with the Bible, and I highly respect all religions, honestly. But the religions outside of Catholicism that I connect with the most would be Islam and Buddhism are the ones I connect with the most, that I feel like I have the most spiritual connection to. And you can't really totally explain your spiritual connection and why you think that way, but everyone's entitled to their opinions. Liz London, thank you very much for that donation. That's very nice of you. I don't know what super sticker means, but thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's a YouTube thing. Chris H, wow, with is that European money? I don't know. I think that's euros, right? You know what? Your euros are just as good as our American dollars. Thank you very much, Chris H. We appreciate it. Payday Day, showing some love for the most entertaining content on YouTube. Although I probably shouldn't be happy watching streams at 3 a.m. Yeah, you feel free to get some sleep, Chris. We appreciate you, man. You can always catch the live stream tomorrow as well and finish it off if you want. So conscious plasma, really interesting concept. Now, in this paper, essentially what this paper does, does Ashton ever sleep? I will be 100% honest with you guys. I've actually been sleeping very well. It's just hard. Like I get burnt out because I do my 9-to-5 job. I was doing regression testing all day today, and I finished that up like right near 5 o'clock. And then I've got like just 2 hours before the live stream starts. So it's tough to get all this stuff in. Okay. So this basically in this, if we scroll through it, what you're going to find is there's a bunch of images that are publicly available images from NASA, from various points. And I remember looking through this several months ago. Yeah, what a curveball, right? And it was not very compelling to me. I'll be honest with you. It was not very compelling to me. Now, it doesn't mean it's not true. It just wasn't compelling because I look at all these images and I'm like, what are we looking at here? We're looking at something outside the ISS, right? This one here is the Mir International Space Station. But it is interesting because there are a lot of videos of like stuff flying past the ISS. And then like all of a sudden the feed goes down. This happens a lot where NASA just takes down their live stream feed when something goes flying past the space station. Excuse me. A lot of people ask me about Stephen Greer, and I have never been in direct contact with him except for one time on an X space where I thought we were going to be able to talk more, but I got one question in. It was fine because I got the answers to what I needed out of the space, but that was the only time I've spoken to him. I do think it's very weird that Stephen Greer is not that interested in talking to me when he's putting out these documentaries and he's just talking to random dudes like Billy Carson, Michael Schlatt, I think his name is. They're good guys, I think. You know, they're knowledgeable, they're smart people. But it's kind of weird. Now, I'm not sure I would even want to go on it because I'm not gonna tie myself to any of these UFO people. Certainly not the woke disclosure side of it. By the way, that's what we're calling them now, woke disclosure. But for sure, Stephen Greer, guys, is more correct than basically everybody else in the UFO community. And the reason why he's more correct is that he's actually interviewed the engineers. A lot of the clips that I've shared come from Stephen Greer's direct interviews with Black Project engineers in the early 2000s. So he's a very knowledgeable guy for sure, but we're not 100% connected. Yeah, woke disclosure is what it's going to be from now on. We came up with the perfect terminology. We could be really good propagandists, honestly. If the U.S. government wanted us to help them out, we would be great at pushing propaganda and, narratives and things like that. Instead, we're just out here exposing them and exposing their lies. So there's a bunch of videos or a bunch of images here. I think they have a couple of videos in the addendums of these. And then it starts talking about how these plasmas exist in the ionosphere and how these plasmas can form ball lightning from lightning strikes and weird phenomenon like that. And then it starts to dig into this idea of whether or not these plasmas could actually be conscious. Pretty interesting. So here's Fair Weather Clouds. Where's the conscious plasma part? I think they have a lot of sources as well. Now, the sources, one of them says something like the plasma is essentially forming like DNA or cellular makeup that matches it. Where is it? Transient plasmas in the ionosphere, elves, sprites, pixies, streaks, flashes, and jellyfish. Pretty dang weird. And then here's ones about the space shuttle. Now, several times through this as well, and I guess a lot of people did not know this, this paper also mentions the concept that these plasmas can go through solid matter. Go through solid matter. This is 100% true. Now I know why Salvatore Pais, in my first interview with him, he mentioned that I asked him, can we go through solid matter? And he didn't want to answer the question. And the reason why he didn't want to answer the question, in my belief, my opinion, is that because he knew the secret was plasma. And he was pushing it as far as he could push it. These plasmas can just go straight through walls. Actually, Ken Shoulders, and I think some other experiments as well, showed these things going right through glass. Right through glass, like it wasn't even there. Like it keeps its shape when it's like halfway through a sheet of glass, where normally it would cut the plasma in half. But instead, the plasma just stays totally normal. That's pretty wild. Hello, Loomer Fan Club. Nice to see you. I've been enjoying your content. They can also be invisible, yes. This paper talks about that as well. It talks about lab-produced plasmas as well. I don't remember where it is in this paper. It's kind of long, to be honest with you. Here's the effects of ball lightning and UFOs, and it connects the UFO phenomenon directly to this idea of ball lightning. Now, guys, I keep it 100% real. I thought this shit was insane a year ago. Like a year and a half ago, I thought this idea of plasma being the answer for UFOs and stuff, I thought it was nuts. I thought it was nutty as hell. I thought there was no way. And now I'm like, oh, it is 100% the answer. Plasma is the answer for UFOs. At least I would say the vast majority of the UFOs that we're seeing, these orbs, they're just balls of plasma. They're what we would call ball lightning. It's incredible to learn as much as we've learned and change your opinion 180 degrees. Just completely change your opinion on it. And I'm even open to the idea of conscious plasma now. It's possible that some of these plasmas we created them. There could be natural ones, and some of them could be life forms. Maybe other ones don't have the same level of consciousness as natural ones. There's a lot of possibilities. Of course, this is all highly speculative, but I think it's possible, personally. I do think it's possible. And then here's stuff about alien abductions. They reference the soul encounters. Now this one, plasmas have invaded the cockpit of airplanes. That's pretty alarming. Okay. Plasmas have invaded the cockpit of airplanes. Guys, I never want to fly ever again. I never want to fly on an airplane ever again. This is wild. I'm already terrified of getting on airplanes. And now I just saw another video where there's just a bunch of orbs outside my plane. I'm going to have to change my pants if I look out my window and there's 3 orbs in a triangle formation. Like, I will literally be screaming that the pilot needs to take evasive maneuvers, and they're going to, like, strap me down and duct tape me to the seat. Like, literally. I'm going to be sitting there like, evasive maneuver. There are orbs outside the window. We are about to be teleported to Diego Garcia. This mother effer is real. This mother effer is real. I'm going to be screaming it, and then they're going to duct tape me. I'm going to be stuck to the seat. The orbs are coming. The orbs are coming to teleport us. Casimir forces. 0 point energy. They're going to put me, like, literally in an insane asylum. And then our plane gets zapped away, and then that'll be that. And then I'll never see you guys again, and I'll be living out my days on Diego Garcia. That's how it's going to play out, chat. When people invite me to in-person podcasts, I'm like, get me the shortest flight possible. No layovers. Like, I literally am terrified. I sit in the seat, and my arms are glued to the seat. If there's any turbulence, I'm sitting there and I put up the window and I'm looking out there for orbs. It's bad, chat. It's bad. Like, the main reason why I want to prove that teleportation's real so that I never have to get on an airplane ever again. Like, ever again. 100%. Okay. Now, here's the craziest part. This is why, guys, I wasn't even going to go through this paper. I wasn't even going to review it. I thought it's interesting, but it's pretty out there. And they're making connections that are, I wouldn't call it, it's loose to say that this is a scientific paper. To me, this is a research paper. This is a research paper. I mean, to say that we're looking at balls of plasma in some of these images, it's a stretch. It's a stretch to say the least. Like, looking at this one, oh, can't zoom in. Let me see here. Oh, it kind of just like went up. Like, what is this? This looks like it's from the 80s or something like that. Which, okay, maybe this is something, but this isn't high quality enough to be making like sound judgments on what I'm looking at right here. So a lot of the stuff I saw there was interesting. Now this, guys, wait, this is the part where it gets pretty interesting. Speculation. Plasmas may have caused unexplained, inexplicable airline disasters. Well, that's relevant to my interests. Okay. And it references Chris Mellon. By the way, Chris Mellon is definitely deep state. Like no doubt, deep state. Like, this guy, for sure, deep state. I actually think that Chris Mellon was the one floating the Iranian mothership thing to some of the politicians, because it would make sense that Chris Mellon has those kind of contacts. Also, what the hell is former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense? What is that? What does that position even mean? This sounds like assistant to the regional manager. Like, this reminds me of The Office. Like, what kind of role is this guy in? This is the position that you get when you're like a rich kid and they hook you up. Your family, your daddy hooks you up, and they get you a job in government because you just have billions of dollars. Anyway, that's enough hating on Chris Mellon. Lightning is a plasma that, when carrying a positive or negative charge, attracts electrically charged plasmoids, which follow those bolts to the tops of the clouds, which are also positively charged. Whereas the bottom of the cloud and the bolts of lightning that erupt from the bottom often have a negative charge. Aircraft and spacecraft may also radiate a positive charge that attracts bursts of lightning, even in fair weather conditions. Okay, guys, you guys are probably thinking what I'm thinking here. If it turns out that the MH370 videos are some kind of conscious plasma alien being zapping the plane out of the sky, you know what? If that's the case, I'm just going to say that it's VFX. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in that world. If somehow this right here is conscious plasmas being attracted to the plane because of its positively charged ions, and they were like, we're just going to zap this plane out of the sky, then I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, you know what, guys? It was VFX. I don't want to go there. That's too much for me. It's just too much. I can digest the United States military and government having this technology. There being floating balls of alien plasmas that are conscious that are out there. They're just like, whoops, you triggered our teleportation protocol. And then they just swoop on in and teleport the plane away. That's not, I don't know. I can't do that. I'm not ready for that. That's just too ontologically shocking for me. So if that happens to be the case, we're going with VFX. Turns out, guys, like after like 2 years, I'm like, okay, guys, it's yeah, you know, it was conscious plasma all along. Sorry, just kidding. It's VFX now. Okay. So this gets pretty weird down here. Lightning is a plasma. That is true. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, sure. St. Elmo's fire. Okay, NASA film footage. Where's the spiciness? Once I saw it talking about TWA Flight 800, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. I know where this is going. The TWA Flight 800 case has never been admitted to. Now, the story that I heard when I went on Tim Pool, we were talking in the green room before Tim Pool with some of his staffers, and they showed me a video that claimed that it was TWA Flight 800 was a U.S. shoot down where we accidentally used some kind of weapon on the plane, TWA Flight 800, that we weren't supposed to. This is arguing that, okay, could a ball plasma have caused that? You know what? I'm willing to believe anything that there's evidence for. Now, the bad news is there's no video leaks of TWA Flight 800. But it is a little bit odd that the government never admitted that we shot it down. Why not just admit we shot it down? Like, especially if it was an accident, just be like, it was an accident. Sorry. Pay them $1 million each or whatever we're going to do, and it goes away. Not sure. Here's another case in 1945. I don't care about that one. Now here. What do we have here, chat? What? MH370? On March 8th, 2014, Boeing 777 Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 inexplicably ceased to communicate with air traffic controllers and disappeared from air control radar 39 minutes after leaving Kuala Lumpur, en route to Beijing, but then flew for hours off course before disappearing from radar. That's close to true. It was only 1 hour after this, when the plane disappeared from radar, it was 1 hour after the plane went dark that the plane disappeared from radar. It's very confusing. It was intentionally confusing so that the public couldn't figure out what happened, but there you go. The pilot's last message was "Good night, Malaysian Airlines 370. Yep. Minutes later, the plane's transponder communication system turned off, shut down. Malaysian radar and satellite systems, however, continued to track the plane, which appeared to turn 180 degrees and continue to fly for hours until it vanished, presumably crashing into the ocean. The Boeing 777, like all commercial aircraft since 2001, has an armored cockpit door that can resist attacks and small arms fire from outside the cockpit. This is not a factual claim. That's not a factual claim. Actually, this was recently refuted on the Julian Dory podcast, and Julian Dory apologized to me about this. They assume that all the planes have these reinforced cockpits, but that was just a narrative that was sold out there. Do they all have them? That's unknown. Anyway, to speculate, if plasma were to enter the cockpit through the cockpit windows but remain sealed within the cockpit, might that explain why the transponder failed and why the plane disappeared from all but military radar and satellite tracking devices? Might both pilots have become confused, disoriented, mesmerized, or caused to fall asleep by the electromagnetic radiation emitted by the plasma within the locked cockpit? To date, there's been no explanation for what happened or what became of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 other than speculation by Malaysian authorities. Wow. Wow. Well, we know that's not true, but hey, the fact that they're even speculating that this missing plane is connected to plasma is pretty incredible. The sun is woke AF because we know what really happened. This is what really happened. Oh, wait, that's not the video I wanted to share. Hold on. I'm going to show just the... Let's show... Also, it's super annoying that on Reddit they're sharing like the wrong version of the video because like they're sharing some compared video where this video is flipped or mirrored. It's confusing people that are out there. They were pretty close, guys. They were pretty close. Now, the plasmas didn't come inside the cockpit. We know that because we're watching the plasmas circle the plane. But it's similar. Now, this is interesting. Could the plasma orbs have caused the battery fire? This was something that I used to speculate over a year ago. Could the plasma orbs, could these orbs be involved in the fire? There's no way to know. There's really no way to know. The reason why I ruled it out was because these orbs are going like 10 times the speed of the plane at the beginning of this video. 10 times the speed of the plane. This plane is not outrunning these orbs. So if they cause the fire, why let it fly for another hour before you zap it away? It's not like they're just like trailing the plane for an hour and then they decide like, oh, okay, now it's time to zap it. So that part doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but we can't quite rule it out. Can't quite rule it out. So this scientific paper that talks about plasmas, very interesting, guys. Highly recommend checking it out if you're into this idea of conscious plasma. And then there is, let's see, what are some of the other categories? UAPs over the ocean. So it talks about that. You can see Commander Fravor talks about the Nimitz incident here as well. So it's well researched. Don't get me wrong, it's very well researched. I just think that it's kind of making some assumptions. And here's one that they claim is shape-shifting. Now, I think that the lore of the shape-shifting, I'm going to close this now, has gotten a little too out of control, where now people are hearing this idea of, oh, shape-shifting, and they're thinking these things are like changing into airplanes. When they're talking about shape-shifting, they're just talking about like this, like morphine like this. They're not talking about like, oh, it's a transformer and it's more than meets the eye, turning into an airplane. That's not what they're talking about. They're not talking about that. Okay, so any questions on the conscious plasma? I think we're going to go to the next topic here. Yeah, let me see if we can get... Oh, actually, I have this cool video as well that I haven't really watched the entire thing on. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play a couple minutes of this. It's called Cold Fire You Can Touch. Do it yourself cold plasma torch.
Hot, the electrons orbiting the atoms can be given enough energy to detach from their host atoms and float around freely themselves. When this happens, the various atoms become highly charged due to a lack of electrons, and it forms a soup of charged particles. Fire is actually a really good example of this. In the chemical reaction that causes fire, an enormous amount of energy is released, allowing the electrons to come off for a moment until things cool down. You can actually see all this happen if you watch a match in slow motion. Striking the match generates sparks and a cloud of gases, and when the two mix, the chemical reaction gets going and things heat up quickly. The gas begins to glow from a mixture of black body radiation, also known as heat glow, which is proportional to its temperature, and the ionization of atoms and molecules in the mixture. For more about both, I've put a link to my spectroscopy video where we explore both in detail. However, something important to understand is that there are two sets of temperatures in a plasma, the electron temperature and the ion or atom temperature. With fire, because of the way the energy is released, the atoms themselves get very hot as the reaction progresses and the electrons whiz around, crashing into things. And in fact, in most plasmas, the same thing happens. As you put more energy into it, the temperature of the atoms will rise rapidly. But we wouldn't be talking about this today if that was the only option. If you could somehow apply energy in a way that just heats the electrons and had some way to keep the atoms cold, you would still have a glowing plasma whose electrons are anywhere from 2 to 15,000 degrees, but it would feel cold to the touch as
Wait, okay, I need to repeat that. So let me go back like 10 seconds. What was this question here? Is it projection? I think that there's a misconception about these plasmas, that people think that these plasmas are like a hologram. No, they're producing a real physical thing. This is a physical phenomenon. Now, the whole point is that plasma is the fourth state of matter. So it doesn't act like a solid, doesn't act like a gas, doesn't act like a liquid. It's some combination between them. The misinformation that's being pushed is this idea that, oh, it's a hologram. They're making an illusion. No, when you're making plasma, you're creating something real, 100% real.
To keep the atoms cold, you would still have a glowing plasma whose electrons are anywhere.
I didn't go far enough back.
atoms will rise rapidly. But we wouldn't be talking about this today if that was the only option. If you could somehow apply energy in a way that just heats the electrons and had some way to keep the atoms cold, you would still have a glowing plasma whose electrons are anywhere.
Oh, yes. Okay, we just heard the secret. Oh, I'm glad we watched this. This might add another 30 minutes to our live stream, but what did they just say right there? How do we make the cold plasma? We need to make the electrons warm. We need the electrons to break free from the molecules, and they leave behind the ion, and we need the ion that's left behind, the positively charged ion. So you have a neutral particle. If I go, for the people that don't understand this, I'm going to simplify it for you guys. You have a neutral particle. It can be anything. Let's just say it's a hydrogen atom. You strip off one of the electrons from the hydrogen atom. You now have a negatively charged electron over here, and you have a positively charged hydrogen atom ion that is missing an electron. That's all that is. That's plasma. What did they just say? How do you make? What's the difference between hot fusion and cold fusion? In hot fusion, they're trying to heat up these ions, these positively charged ions, and they're just hoping that they come together. That's what they're doing. That's hot fusion. They're like, heat up the ions, and then they'll get more energy, and they'll just naturally hit each other. In cold fusion, we are taking a cold plasma, and we're saying, separate out the electron. The electron's going to be hot, and the ions are going to be neutral, cold. And then we're going to create a geometry, a bubble, or like a black hole, essentially, if you want to think of it, if you really want to simplify it, where now they're naturally, these ions are naturally going to come together. Why is this huge? Well, you guessed it, guys. It goes back to the same thing over and over and over again. Someone in the chat, tell me, what do you guys think? Now that I just said that, what do you guys think that we're looking at with these orbs? What do you think the heat signature is? The heat signature right here. Why is this view so terrible? There's got to be a way to delete views in StreamYard. I don't need 15 views where half of them are useless. We're looking at right there. The electrons are the green. The green is the electrons. The blue of the sphere is the ions. That's the answer, right? Because it's cold. It's room temperature. Exactly, guys. You guys are all getting it. You guys are smart. See? Look at this. I'm teaching a quantum mechanics lesson and plasma lesson here. The ions are cold. So let me actually, let's go to the other video where you can see this more clearly. It's actually crazy. These videos prove cold fusion. No wonder Sal Pais was freaking out when he saw this. He's looking at this and he's like, no way. How is this video real? How is this video on the internet? So look at those balls of plasma at the top of the screen right there. Look at that. The blue part is the ions. The green and yellow, the mostly green part is the electrons right there. We're looking at cold plasma right here, and it's been shaped into a sphere. There's no way anybody could fake this. Are you kidding me? What people are the debunkers are talking about some bored hoaxer fake this? What are you talking about, dude? What are you talking about? This is consistent with cold plasma physics. There's no way. Yeah, they can confine the ions to fuse them if needed. Now, my guess is the point of these plasma balls is not fusion. So they're probably not set up to produce fusion. Like all they want out of these plasma balls is it to be stable. That's what they want. They want it to be stable. If you want to produce fusion, you would take the same concept and you probably just apply some pressure to it. And then you force those blue ions right here. You force them to fuse through magnetism. Pretty incredible. Sorry, I heard some animals freaking out.
From 2 to 15,000 degrees, but it would feel cold to the touch as electrons lack the momentum to transfer much of that heat to a large object due to their tiny mass. The reason fire feels hot is because gases and ions are at high temperatures, and since they have more mass, they can transfer that energy to your finger more easily. Okay, now that we understand the basics of plasma, how do we make some? Well, anyone who's played with high voltage knows that a sufficiently high voltage source lets you pull long streams of plasma as soon as the wires get close enough together. What's happening there is the electrons in the wire have sufficient energy to literally shoot out of the wire and travel a fair distance in search of ground, so that they can release their energy.
Like lightning.
As the wires get closer together, some of the electrons make it across the gap. As they do this, they crash into gas molecules and ionize them, knocking more electrons free. This makes the air more conductive, so more electrons can flow.
Oh, yes. Oh, God. We are. I honestly cannot believe how over the target we are. Guys, I'm just on cloud 9. Like, it's insane how over the target we are. Like, we have just been nailing bullseye after bullseye for basically a year straight. What did he just say right there? What he basically said is, you've got your gap, right? Let me go full screen. You can see the gap right here. You've got your gap. You got this gap. This is just like lightning. The gap in lightning is the altitude to the ground. That's why we get our lightning strike. In this case, you've got two wires and you've got a gap here, and the air is insulating. If you increase the voltage enough, which is the force, equivalent to the force, you increase that voltage enough, and you're going to cause a spark to fly through between this side and this side. And when that happens, you are ionizing the molecules in the air. You are literally stripping electrons from the molecules in the air and forming the plasma. That's why you see the plasma arc in this video that we're about to look at here again. Jesus, which is the right one? Okay.
Repeats until you have a hot soup of plasma, which conducts very readily. At that point, trillions and trillions of electrons can suddenly flow, which rapidly heats everything.
So what you guys are seeing right there, that's plasma. You're looking at it right there. You're looking at the plasma right there. It's jumping the gap with the high voltage right there.
Yeah. What we want to do is take advantage of the electrons jumping out of the wire, but we need to inhibit their ability to cross the gap and form a hot arc. To give them a little extra help, we don't want to just use higher voltages. Instead, we want to increase the frequency of the applied voltage until it's in the low radio ranges. If we use something like
increase the frequency, guys, this guy is saying all the right stuff. This sounds very similar to what Salvatore Pais has been telling us.
Like a microwave transformer to generate our high voltage, it'll be running at 60 hertz. That means the voltage climbs and drops 60 times per second. Considering the distance the electrons fly is proportional to the voltage, there are these distinct peaks where more electrons are coming out and flying further. By increasing the frequency, we increase the amount of time the electrons are able to escape the wire. However, as we increase the frequency, we also start to get what are called near and far field effects. Radio is, after all, just an alternating current on a set of bare wires at its simplest. By increasing the frequency all the way into the low radio ranges, the wire now also radiates radio waves along with the electrons it spews out. These waves can themselves energize the flying electrons, allowing them to fly further and behave differently. Primarily, it easily allows them to fly free of the wire and try to find ground to release their energy. To maximize the effect of the high voltage, high frequency, we place a thin insulator between the two wires as a dielectric barrier. As the electrons leave the wire...
What? We put an insulator in the middle of it? Chat, I'm getting freaked out. Remember Salvatore Pais's high temperature superconductor patent? In the middle of this wire or whatever he produces, there's an insulator in the middle of it. There's an insulator in the middle of it. And there's something else we were talking about yesterday, which I'm not going to repeat right now, another device that also has an insulator in the middle of it. This is pretty wild. Nick, thank you very much for that donation, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert, for your donation as well. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys. Okay, we are over the target, chat. We are going to learn how to make cold plasmas.
They now hit a surface that they can't really go through.
So the insulator, right, it blocks it. But we know there are quantum mechanical phenomenon. There are quantum mechanical phenomenon that allow for electrons to pass directly through an insulator. We call it quantum tunneling.
So they spread out and the insulator builds up a charge on its surface, essentially forming a tiny capacitor. If this insulator was a tube, we could set it up so that all the electrons are being spit out into a stream of easily ionizable...
Holy shit, Salvatore Pais's patents are showing us how to make a cold fusion or a cold plasma ball. Oh my God, we got it. Holy shit, that's what he's showing us. If you put the insulator into a tube, that's literally what Sal Pais's patent is. High temperature superconductor Pais Piezoelectric, high temperature superconductor. Oh my God, chat. We've got it. We've got it. That Salvatore Pais, it was always him, dude. I knew it was him. Look at this thing. Are you kidding me? Insulating core. There it is right there. Holy shit. Oh my goodness. He's showing us how we make a cold plasma. His patents literally add up to producing cold plasma. And then his inertial mass reduction patent is basically turning the plasma and using it to make a ball of plasma around your craft. Wow. What the fuck does guys, what does Salvatore Pais know, man? Salvatore Pais knows way more than he's saying. Way more. There is no way in hell that he just randomly has these patents that are literally explaining how to produce cold plasma. There's no way. Bro. Honestly, I'm reeling again, man. This is crazy. I'm glad we watched this. Let me go back. Okay, we got to go back like 10 seconds here. You kidding me?
Essentially forming a tiny capacitor. If this insulator was a tube, we could set it up so that all the electrons are being spit out into a stream of easily ionizable gas like argon. The electrons would ionize the gas, turning it into a plasma, and the RF would help keep it energized.
That's what Salvatore Pais's inertial mass reduction patent literally says, to use a noble gas. I'm just going to have to let this video play here, and we're just going to have to risk the copyright strike. Here we go.
If we get the gas flow just right, we should be able to gently push this plasma out of the tube. The flowing gas makes it such that the electrons absorb most of the energy, as the gas atoms just aren't exposed to enough energy to heat them up in the short time that they're in the tube. Before we go further, a word about safety. We're working with high voltages and gases which, if not handled properly, can be very dangerous.
I don't need it.
I wouldn't suggest you attempt to replicate this unless you know what you're doing. Use common sense and good high voltage practice if you intend to
I literally feel like I'm going to kill myself by making one of these plasma things. So I hope that doesn't happen.
replicate this. With that out of the way, to build a torch around this concept is simple in theory, but very difficult in practice. The core of the torch are these 1.3 millimeter quartz capillary tubes. We're using a flyback transformer and ZVS driver as our power source, both of which can now easily be purchased.
By the way, he just mentioned quartz. Quartz is a piezoelectric material, by the way. So, yeah.
Online for cheap. Flybacks are great because they run at 15 to 30,000 volts at a fairly high frequency in the kilohertz. But they're also super weird, so even though they oscillate and output an alternating current, depending on the model, the output voltage goes from 0 to some positive voltage and then back to 0 without really going negative. It's more like pulse DC. So you treat them sort of like AC and sort of like DC.
Pulse DC?
Again, super weird, but useful for our purposes. To make a bit of cold plasma, all you do is take a capillary, put a needle down one end, and a small washer or bit of metal on the outside. Connect the back end to an argon tank and each electrode to the flyback, and once you turn it on, voila, instant cold plasma.
Wow.
Now, if we're just going to talk about cold plasma, this would be basically the end of the video. In fact, most of the papers about this just stop here. They run their test with the capillary exposed like this and just stop. Thing is, attempting to actually utilize this in an actual functional tool is a lot harder than one might think. So now we can finally talk about Model 18 and briefly what happened to the rest.
Real quick, I just want to say hello to all the spooks, Intel people, and the Black Project engineers watching this right now. Hello to all Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea scientists that are watching. Yes, it's all real. There you go. We're giving you a free quantum mechanics, free plasma lesson here. So, there you go. If the United States didn't want me to do this, they could have reached out to me and talked to me anytime they want.
I'm going to have to leave a lot of the prototyping and failures out, as I've spent more than 70 hours machining parts for the various versions over the past 3 weeks. Many of these were failed attempts at making a torch and having them break at the last second, designs that refused to work for one reason or another, or quick prototypes like the basic exposed capillary just to test ideas, materials, and concepts. To understand the design I settled on, we're actually going to start with number 17, as it's almost identical to 18, but all the parts are see-through, so we can see what's going on. The body of the torch is a piece of acrylic tubing with a 3/8 inch inner diameter. It was cut to approximate length and then trimmed to dimension on the lathe so it had nice flat ends. The back is sealed with a brass hose fitting I made that has an O-ring at one end and is the connection point both for the inner electrode and the wire that connects it to the power supply. I had a lot of fun making this part as it was the most geometrically complex part, and brass is just a fun material to turn. The front end has an acrylic plug that is also sealed by an O-ring and has a small channel going down the center.
I don't know what I was.
Then it has a slightly wider bore at the front end. The inner electrode, which is made of a needle soldered onto some copper wire, can fit up through the channel, and the capillary can be slid down the channel over the needle once everything is assembled. This prevents you from breaking the capillary while trying to fit the needle down the hole.
I want to make this
To make sure the capillary doesn't leak gas around its outside, which is why number 4 failed, a silicon gasket is used to plug the hole so that the gas can only come up through the tube. In number 4, you can actually see the gas being ionized outside of the tube because argon could leak through the sides. I'm using some scrap RTV silicone I had from the gecko tape project I'm working on to make little gaskets. I made a die to cut them out using some 2mm copper tubing with a flared
Just
anvil,
give that,
which
Willis.
is meant
I
to
don't need to
protect
know,
the
like,
capillary from getting...
If you guys want, I'll put the link to the YouTube channel in here. So if you want to know exactly the step-by-step, I'll do it. I just want to see the magic, honestly. And we don't even have, the thing is, we don't even have to produce this. Like, it's already been made. People have already made them. They're, like, look at this video. I hope this person's alive who made this video. Look at this video, chat. This person's just literally out here just making cold plasma. I think that they can get away with it because nobody realizes the significance of this. I'm also at this point very sure that I'm being protected by somebody, because if I was the government, if I was the spooks or Lockheed Martin who has the orbs or whatever, I would have probably killed me by now. I'd have probably given the order by now, because like we're getting way too close, way too close. But I don't know. That's their choice, I guess.
Bumped and snapped. The main feature of this design is that every part is quickly and easily replaceable, as what killed many of the previous designs was a capillary or other part breaking and not having an easy way to replace them. A small leak is enough to destroy one of these torches, so early versions used adhesives like epoxy to make a perfect seal.
Point out that this is not simple. Like, there's a significant amount of engineering going in here to get this to work. Now, it's relatively easy compared to some other stuff, but keep in mind, in order to make the balls of plasma that we're seeing in the MH370 videos, we're talking millions, probably tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars. This is some shit that you can do at your home right here. This, whatever. To try to make a coherent ball of plasma with potentially a device inside of it that's basically doing this, we're definitely talking many millions, okay?
Which was that no matter what we did, we could not make plasma come out of the end of the tube. It took a while to figure out, but our theory is that acrylic is one of several materials that holds a charge very well. As the high voltage charged up the plastic, it was inducing an electrostatic charge in the shield that was literally forcing the plasma back down the tube. And we can't just feed in more gas, as too much gas kills the flame, as no ions can build up before being shot out of the tube. So 18 was meant to address all of these issues.
Okay.
After a bit of tuning, we had a really nice flame, and the torch was stable enough to use without fear of breaking it. Quick note about the power supply is that the larger wire on the flyback should be connected to the front electrode, and the thin wire goes to the inner electrode. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the big wire is actually where the electrons flow towards. So we want the cathode, which is where the electrons come out of, to be in the middle, which happens to come out of the bottom of the transformer. Now I'm going to have to burst your bubble a bit here. The glow from this flame is super dim. All the images you've seen are long exposures. For comparison, here's what it looks like with the lights on.
Wow.
Not super impressive, is it? In person,
Wow. You can't even see it, chat. The cold plasmas are probably straight up invisible. Did you just see that, what I just saw? That was a huge revelation. That's on right there. So for all the people that say, do you think the people saw the orbs? I'm going to go ahead and say right now, no. I don't think the pilots saw the orbs at all. Look at that. It's straight up invisible. Straight up.
what it looks like with the lights on. Not super impressive, is it? In person, it's bright enough to see when the lights are off, but my camera struggles to pick it up without a long exposure. Like we discussed earlier, flames are bright because most of their light comes from heat glow or black body radiation.
This is
Only a very small amount comes from ions recombining and emitting their particular spectrum.
Wow.
Since our plasma is basically room temperature, all the light comes from ions emitting light, so it's pretty dim. Though the very high electron temperature does mean that it puts out a lot of UV light, we just can't see it.
It's ultraviolet.
Now consider that I had the whole...
Can't see the UV. Why is the government filming in infrared and thermal? Why are those videos in thermal and not optical? We 100% know the answer now. They want to see those orbs, and they can't see them in optical spectrum very clearly. Even at night, you can barely see them. But when you're looking at it in infrared and thermal, you can see it clear as day, chat. Those orbs in the videos are, for all intents and purposes, invisible. Finally, it finally makes sense. I can finally now say how these work. The orbs are fucking invisible. Wow. No wonder we're not seeing them way more. No wonder we're not seeing them more in the daytime. We're not seeing them in the daytime because they're invisible to the human eye. They're in the ultraviolet spectrum. You can't even see them. Holy shit. I've speculated, I've wondered about this for a long time. Why are we not seeing more UFOs? It's not, yeah, exactly. And yesterday they were talking about cloaking on that podcast, and they said you can cloak it visibly or you can cloak it from infrared, but not from both. This is why we need that optical spectrometer. We need that optical spectrometer. Wow, I'm so glad we watched this video today. Holy shit, this is insane.
Hold my finger in the flame for 30 seconds to get this image. I think it really demonstrates that it's pretty cold. And here it is shooting at some paper. Even directly in the flame for over a minute, nothing happened. It does feel pretty cold to the touch because of the rather significant gas flow. So where do we go from here? Well, now that we have this torch, we plan on using it for a variety of experiments. I really want to try some of that chemistry with it, but it'll take some time to make sure that we do it safely and can quantify it properly. I also plan on writing a paper on this torch design and a lot of the specifics on what it takes to make it work. These things are so fiddly to get working, and the only other plasma torch paper that uses this cheap and readily available power supply ended up with a hot plasma because they did it wrong. So I'm excited to show how it can be done.
Yes, they're visible in the Sibbers footage, but the Sibbers footage is almost 99.9%. It's infrared, or it's a multispectral or hyperspectral image that we're seeing on those. In that, yeah, we're not. I'm like almost 100% sure in this satellite video, we're not looking at it in the optical spectrum. It could be some kind of fused combination of spectrums. This is the problem where, like, I don't have the inside information on how our cameras are working, and we've had to just speculate. But when you're looking at this here, the reason why the plane is so bulky compared to the models that people say were used that look like stick figures is because planes give off infrared radiation when they're in the air. So that's why it looks kind of bulky compared to a model of a Boeing 777 from just this video. This is almost certainly an infrared, and what we're doing is we're picking up the infrared signature of the orbs in this image, which normally would be invisible. In fact, now, guys, I think we just had a revelation in the MH370 case. I think the pilot had no idea this was about to happen. Whoever is flying this plane has no idea this is about to go down. That's why they're not taking evasive maneuvers. They're literally preparing to land this plane in the water right here. They're descending and they're circling and they're about to land the plane in the water. And then these orbs come out of nowhere and just zap the plane. This has to be a military operation. It has to be. Or, I mean, maybe it can be like, you know, sentient alien plasmas that come down and decide to zap the plane. But again, if that's the case, I'm just going to say it's VFX. I don't want to live in that world. That's too much even for me, chat. Wow.
And properly. Beyond that, we'll continue to tweak the design and add bits and pieces. I'm exhausted from this project, and I'm pretty burnt out on making torches, no pun intended. But I do want to come back to it and add a microwave emitter to the front to see if we can increase brightness and efficiency of plasma creation. Off camera, I'm going to build a nice box to house all the electronics and a stand for the torch. Then it'll be added as the latest tool in the lab for all my sterilization needs. This project was an absolute monster. Yeah, a year in the making, dozens and dozens of hours of machining, and even more of testing and retesting things.
So this is not.
I almost gave up a few times, but I'm glad I stuck with it as the results are awesome. Point is, getting projects like this working can be very expensive, and it's my supporters here on YouTube, over on Patreon.
Wow, what an incredible video. That was very, very enlightening on how to produce cold plasma. Now we know Salvatore Pais's patents are all about plasma. This whole thing's been about plasma the whole time. And it took me the better part of a year to figure that out. And now we're going to become plasma experts. So somebody asked about Danny Jones' podcast. I do get this question a lot. In the Reddit thread, they were talking about the Danny Jones podcast as well. And the truth is that I completely destroyed the Corridor Crew's video. Their video was like 13 minutes long or something like that. And in the same interview, with no notes, without even knowing that video was going to play, I destroyed every single one of their arguments, and it only took me like 5 or 6 minutes. And I was sitting there taking notes while I was watching, because most of their arguments were stuff that like debunkers had pushed like early on in the investigation. And it was clear that the Corridor Crew had no idea. Like the Corridor Crew very obviously did no work whatsoever. They did no forensic analysis whatsoever. They clearly just copied what they read on Reddit because they're fucking retards. And that's why I was ready with all the answers right away, because everything they claimed had already been claimed by people. And most of the points they had made, debunkers already given up on because they'd already been refuted. And it was funny when Danny Jones got super upset about it. And I'm sitting there like, what do you expect, bro? I told you I'm the expert on these videos. Of course, I have an answer for every debunk. You can try to jump me with a video like he did, and it's not going to work because I already know that the videos are real. Well, at that time, I didn't know 100% the videos were real, but I strongly suspected it. And I was actually expecting, I was told by Julian Dory. I was told by him, you guys can clip this if you want. I was told by Julian Dory that a major studio was going to recreate the videos. And so I expected if I was going to get jumped or something by Julian Dory's best friend, Danny Jones. Yes, Julian Dory and Danny Jones are best friends. They told me that themselves. They talk every single day. Julian Dory told me that. I expected something like that. Now, I expected them to actually produce a recreation. And I told Danny Jones afterwards, I was like, that wasn't even a big deal. I expected them to produce a recreation. I didn't expect to see some moron sitting in front of his computer with a dumbass shit-eating grin on his face going, this is debunked because I read some shit on Metabunking on Reddit. That Nico guy is a fucking idiot. Complete idiot. Like, I literally wonder how this guy actually ties his shoes in the morning. There is a 0% chance that those guys you see sitting on the couch and they're like retarded little friend with the tinfoil hat on, there's a 0% chance that those guys are VFX artists. 0%. What they are is retards that sit on YouTube and they hire other people to do VFX, and then they pretend to be VFX artists. That's what they really are. So let me make sure this has been 100% clear. The Corridor Crew are frauds. They are scammers. As a statement of fact, the Corridor Crew are 100% frauds. They're not VFX experts in any shape or form. They did zero forensic analysis of the videos. And if it were to go to court of law in a civil case, I would win against them. And last thing I'll say is that I plan to help the families when the time comes and those videos are admitted to be real. I've collected all the evidence. I've downloaded the Corridor Crew's video. I am going to make sure that the families sue the Corridor Crew and take every single penny that they have. Every single penny that they have. We will use the Alex Jones case as precedent. I can prove in a court of law that the Corridor Crew fabricated a fake debunk to try to make the videos go away. To me, that's criminal, but I will settle for them losing their YouTube channel and every single penny that they have. And if you're a supporter of them, please send this clip to them. I want them to know that I've said this so that everybody out there can realize what coward pieces of shit the Corridor Crew, Nico, the fat retard with the glasses on, what these guys are. So that when they don't sue me, everybody knows that they know they would lose, because they will. Once again, I can prove 100% that the Corridor Crew fabricated a fake debunk comparison, and I can prove that in a court of law. There you go. So, my opinion of Danny Jones is a fucking idiot. Danny Jones is one of the dumbest people I've ever interacted with on any podcast ever. It's funny that he put so much scrutiny on somebody that had a massive amount of evidence on a real world case when he literally sits there and listens to people talking about tripping on DMT and seeing the secrets of the universe. He sits there thinking that some guy tells him that he lost his virginity to an alien, and he doesn't even push back at all. Like, Danny Jones listens to some crazy shit and never pushes back at all. And for some reason, not only did he push back on me, he didn't even let me get the evidence out. He did a fake break where he kept the cameras rolling, and he told me we were on a break and we weren't. And then he also tried to jump me with a video from his retarded friends, the Corridor Crew, who are fake VFX artists and fraudsters, and try to debunk the case. Danny Jones is either an asset of the intelligence communities, or he is a just useful idiot. And it could be either. I don't know, as a statement of fact. So there you go. I got that off my chest there for you. I don't like to talk shit about him, but I have told and warned Danny, and I have all the records and all the texts from Danny Jones. Danny Jones called me multiple times after the video where he was like clearly worried about how he was going to come across in the video and tried to tell me, like, try to convince me that we should call the video something very inflammatory. And I told him you shouldn't do that. And then he ignored my advice even after he called me. Like, I have the records. Like, I'm going to pull it up right now. In fact, I'm going to show you guys so that you can see. Where if I go to my recents and I do a search and I type in Danny Jones's name. Oops. How do I? There you go. You can see how many times Danny Jones called me. It's probably not going to be in focus, but you guys can zoom in and check it out. Danny Jones was calling and texting me nonstop after we recorded. It was super weird, and I knew something was up. So Danny Jones is a snake. I would not recommend that anybody go on his podcast. I understand that people go on there because they want to get the exposure because he's got a decent platform. But dude is a straight up snake. 100%. Okay, let's get on to the real stuff. I don't want to sit here and just talk shit about people. Okay. But I just wanted to say all that so people understand where I'm coming from, because I don't want to hear any bullshit excuses later on. When the videos are proven real, I'm going to come down extremely hard on Danny Jones. I'm going to come down hard on Julian Dory as well. I'm going to come down hardest on Corridor Crew, Mick West, all these guys. I'm going to end their careers. I've said that from the beginning. And if they don't want to do that, they should have thought twice about inviting somebody onto a podcast just to try to like debunk them or whatever weird shit they had going on in their idiot heads. Yeah, it's a good time to be alive, guys. It is good. Thank you very much for that donation. One Tack Tundra, I've seen you in the chat as well. Thank you. Okay, so that's the full story, guys. I have the receipts and I have the text messages as well. Also, I will also add on this as well that both Danny Jones and Julian Dory both tried to get me to sign weird agreements where basically they would be allowed to defame me. You heard that correctly. They had these agreements written up. I didn't know anything about what you like. I thought when you go do in-person podcasts, I thought maybe it was just normal. But after going on like Tim Pool and Candace Owens, they told me that no, if anybody tries to make you sign anything when you go on a podcast, you should walk away right away. Yeah, just if you don't believe me, 100%. I even have the agreement. You want me to show you guys the agreement? Danny Jones's agreement basically says that he has all rights to do whatever he wants with the podcast. That's the way he phrased it. Julian Dory's thing, which I didn't even end up signing, he signed my name in his, I don't know if it's like an NDA or what you would call it, but whatever agreement is, his basically said that like, I'm not even allowed to say mean things about Julian Dory. Literally, that's what Julian Dory's thing. So you could, and I should have like, that was when like bells were going off in my head where I was like, why do they want me to sign these weird agreements that basically say they can do whatever they want with the interview? And Danny Jones gave the rights to attack me to the Corridor Crew when they made that video that everybody clips. You can actually, the segment in there is from the Danny Jones podcast, which would be copyrighted, but Danny Jones gave the Corridor Crew the permission. 100% true story. 100% true story. If you ask Danny Jones or Julian Dory about it, these guys are literally scum pieces of shit. That's just the scummiest thing ever. I've been nice to these guys. I could have come down so much harder on these guys for the shady ass shit that they did. Neither of them deserve to have podcasts. Their podcasts deserve to go bankrupt. It's honestly disgusting. Julian Dory thinks he's going to be the next Joe Rogan. Not as long as I'm alive on this world. Not as long as I'm alive on this world. I'm going to make sure everybody knows what huge pieces of shit you guys are and what huge fucking scummy shit that you did to me. So I've been keeping it secret for a while because I have all the receipts. I always do. Always do. Okay, there you go, guys. Candace Owens was amazing, guys. And I do want to get into some other stuff. We got a lot to get into here today, but Candace Owens was awesome. I didn't know what to expect with Candace Owens. I even went on Candace Owens assuming that maybe she would be adversarial. And she was super nice. She was like, no, I totally believe that the U.S. government has like super advanced technology. The first thing I did when I sat down with Candace Owens was like, so how is this going to go? I was like, I'm going to come on this show no matter what, because you're such a huge platform. Even if she was going to attack me, I didn't mind. And I told her straight up, like, I was worried because I saw Candace Owens destroy that Rabbi Shmuley guy. And I was like, man, Candace Owens could wreck me. Like, she could easily wreck me. She's a smart woman, extremely smart woman. But she didn't. She was totally open-minded to it, which was awesome. So, yeah, those guys are definitely Democrats, by the way. They're totally woke disclosure. Danny Jones and Julian Dory. And how do I know that? Because Julian Dory ranted for like 30 minutes after we stopped recording about how he wasn't going to go on Rumble because Rumble is for like conspiracy theorists, like right-wingers. Like literally for like 30 minutes ranted. His producer, Alessi, was sitting there trying to convince Julian Dory he should be posting on Rumble as well. It would increase his platform. And Julian Dory literally thought that Rumble people are like beneath him. Like he literally looks down on Rumble people. I sat there and I even told him, like, you could ask Julian Dory. He would probably admit to this. Said that you should stop caring what people think about you. That's what I told Julian Dory. That was my unsolicited advice to him. True story. All this is 100% true, guys. You guys know I don't lie. Yeah, it's wild, man. Anyway, there you guys go. You got your little dirt for today, guys. Crazy. The part that's the most sketchy, though, where if people knew, they would probably think twice about going on Julian Dory and Danny Jones's podcast, is that they tried to make me sign that weird agreement. That was by far the sketchiest shit. So sketchy. So any of you guys that go on interviews, never, if they try to get you to sign something, walk away. Walk away. No podcasters are going to make you sign anything. You're doing them a favor by going on their show. You're giving them content. Danny Jones probably made tens of thousands of dollars from my appearance on his show. Tens of thousands. And I got nothing out of it. Instead, what they did is they used it to attack me. That's grifting. That is all the things that people say about me, like grifting and all this shit. That's what grifting is. Having people come on your show, making them sign agreements while you take all the money and they get nothing, and then you try to make them look bad. That's the sketchiest shit. The only one I signed was the Danny Jones one. And there's nothing I could really do about it after the fact. The good news was with the Julian Dory one, he signed it in the computer and I knew it wasn't going to be legally binding because I didn't actually sign it. And I'm pretty sure that Danny Jones learned from that, and therefore he had me like sign it on paper afterwards. Pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, you have to learn the hard way, guys. You have to learn the hard way sometimes. It's honestly, it was the scummiest shit ever. So you guys understand why I was so pissed off afterwards? That's why I was pissed off. You get betrayed like that, and of course you're going to be mad. In fact, I would be justified being way more mad than I was at something like that. And then the Corridor crew, because I debunked all their claims in live while I was on air live with no preparation, they had to change their whole video. That video that the Corridor crew pushes, they had to redo the whole thing. It was supposed to drop the next day. It took them like a week later to drop it because they changed their arguments, except for the one about the VFX argument. They changed all their arguments. It's like these guys are just scummy pieces of shit. They're just complete scummy fucking pieces of shit. There's no other way around it. Corridor crew, Danny Jones, Julian Dory. Disgusting, bro. Okay. Let's go to the next thing. Shawn Ryan. Okay. What was oh shit, I don't have the timestamp on this. Where's the energy one? Oh, here we go. I think. Shit, I don't have the timestamp on this. One sec, guys. Hey, Jan, thank you for the donation. You are the reason I'm not watching stupid shit on the internet anymore. Rather, I'm interested in electrical engineering science as an electrician. The first time in my life. Thank you. This is an extremely inspirational message. Thank you, Jan. Truth is, it's the same for me as well. I barely watch Netflix or any of the other stuff anymore. Only when I want to get an escape. I don't even play video games anymore or any of the other stuff because honestly, this is more interesting to me than any of that stuff, which is awesome. I told somebody from my work today that who's going to have a child. I said, your child's going to grow up in a world that we don't even recognize anymore. We don't even recognize anymore. 100%. Sorry, I'm going to try to get the timestamp here for you guys on this. Shit. What's the timestamp? Does anyone have the timestamp on this? So somewhere in here he talks about cold fusion. I thought it was like 40 something minutes in. It's somewhere really close to where I'm at right now. We may have to just dig around for it. So this guy actually brings up cold fusion here. We're going to do, let's do the, which one? This one? Okay. I think it's right around here. Let me see.
That because if you have too much derived energy,
Oh,
it just screws you, right? Because it makes energy cheaper when the sun's shining.
I think that's
and then everyone's screwed, and there's not, you have to pay people even more who are running all the time when the sun's not shining. Batteries are getting better, but there are certain like things. For example, with air conditioning, you probably that works really well because you need more energy anyway when it's sunny outside. So listen, I think solar is a big part of the solution. But I think for the base load, I think natural gas and nuclear are the obvious things to scale out for now.
Do you know anybody that's working with cold fusion?
What? Shawn Ryan just randomly drops cold fusion? Bro, we are influencing people. Chat. We're influencers now, everybody. MH370X is influencers now. Do you think that Shawn Ryan asked this question about cold fusion if he's not following me? No way, bro. No way. Shawn Ryan is like, what do you think? He's just asking about energy, and Shawn Ryan's like, what do you think about cold fusion? How crazy is this? We are literally going to expose cold fusion to the world. We're actually going to expose cold fusion to the world. Don't worry, Tundra. We're going to the 1 hour mark. We're going to go to the 1 hour mark. I don't even know what he says during the 1 hour mark, but I heard the cold fusion thing, and I just sat up in my chair, and I was like, what? How everybody's talking about cold fusion. Guys, just in case you missed it last night, I'm going to just do the first part of this clip for you guys.
Or not, there were several members of from China there, and they very specifically were asking for collaboration in some of these very deep technologies. So, we talked about how, gravity manipulation, right? Kind of went dark for a while. Well, they call it something slightly different now, and it's something that China and others are actively researching. They call it extended electrodynamics. Same thing with cold.
What is the difference between gravity and extended electrodynamics?
Yeah, so electromagnetic spectrum engineering and scientific work. So they're part of the equation, but we really don't know how to the full understanding effects that pop out that we can utilize for. And they're actively researching that and actively asking for collaboration on that from China. Same thing with cold fusion.
There's that lady that took off. That's what she was working on.
Yeah. Cold fusion, right?
Yeah.
Another 50, 60 topic that was ridiculed and went away. Well, it's also...
Oh my God, man. We're actually going to expose cold fusion. What is this timeline? What even is this timeline? Okay, so let's listen to what he says.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a few different companies. There's one called Commonwealth in Massachusetts that a bunch of my friends are invested in.
Commonwealth, we're going to that.
It's interesting because fusion is one of those things where for a while, when I was younger, just really skeptical because it's always supposed to be coming and you're like, this is never going to come. It's crazy. But it turns out you can actually map out the ratio of the energy you put in to get out, and then you kind of graph that, right? And so if you graph that, it's called the
Okay, I'm going to skip this part. Basically, what he says here is that, we're going to hot fusion will totally work eventually. I don't think it's going to work eventually. I think we're decades away from getting hot fusion working. I think we're still decades away. Thank you, Discovering Diamonds, for that. Also, guys, I don't want you guys to go harass any of the other podcasters. I gave you guys my opinion, but it's not for you to harass them. We're past that. It's so long ago now. We've come so much farther than that. And then also Nick Haslam, thank you very much for those donations. So basically he says here, we're working on the Q ratio, which is the input versus the output. It's like coefficient of performance, basically. And he's like, we're going to get to the part where eventually it's going to... hot fusion will work, but I don't think so. I think cold fusion is really what it's all about. Cold fusion is where we're going to have the breakthrough in fusion reaction and coefficient of performance greater than 1. Very confident in that, making that claim. Okay, let's go check this part out. The future state of warfare. Everybody said, go to 1 hour, go to 1 hour.
And you're going to have these massive numbers of drones is by far the best way to fight. And you're going to need ways to stop them. And so what are the most important weapons? Well, If you could have force fields, if you have the Star Trek shields, that's pretty freaking cool. And and it turns out in venture capital, there's two things, right? In venture capital, there's where's the best talent in the world and what's possible now that wasn't possible before. We have access to the best talent. We're lucky to have that. So what's newly possible? Well, it turns out these chips are now fast enough to control power on small timescales to make our electronic warfare weapons work way better. So he said, okay, this is a really key area because we know there's new possibility here. Let's prove it out. And it was really fun because with about $30-40 million on our side, we're able to go to the desert and have a competition against guys who've raised and spent and given billions and billions by the government, tens of billions by the government for their stuff. And when the hardened drones flew, for the same size, same power, we shot down the hardened drones 9.5 times farther away.
Are you serious?
9.5 times farther away than the guys who got billions of dollars of contracts.
He's talking about scalar weapons right now. I don't know if you guys realize this. He's basically saying we can produce these scalar weapons much cheaper. And like, this is the equivalent of like hot fusion versus cold fusion. Cold fusion gets no money. Cold fusion gets nothing. Hot fusion gets tens of billions of dollars. Hot fusion produces nothing at all. There's been no consistent, perpetual fusion ignition from hot fusion. It's never produced anything. And the reason is because some people realize that the physics equations are, let's say, incomplete. And if you realize the physics equations are incomplete, then you can produce weapons that are scalar weapons much cheaper, that are much, much more impactful. In fact, you can beam energy at a distance, directed energy weapons. So, of course, once you understand how physics really works, you can clearly, vastly outperform conventional technology. And that's what he's saying right here. Wild.
Contracts. And it's because there's these new possibilities that they didn't know how to do.
How was it developed? Where'd you guys develop this?
Yeah. El Segundo, Nathan Mintz, Bomar, a bunch of guys, Andy Lowry, a bunch of really key guys on their team who, and the DNA was a combination. Like we have the DNA from the Silicon Valley world. We have the DNA from the electronic warfare world. So there's some people who have worked at some of these other places because there's just certain expertise that's been built up in America that no one else has that you need to build on what already exists and build on the kind of knowledge of how gallium nitride can be worked with.
That guy said chips as well. He was talking about microchips. Guys, how many times have I told you that microchips are the future? One of the main reasons why I'm not pushing the over unity devices, I don't want to make bulky magnetic motors. I want to make fucking microchips. It's 2024. It's 2024. Once you understand the principles, why do I need this giant? I don't need some giant device. I want a microchip that goes in my phone. That's the $1 trillion idea. You can make a microchip. It doesn't even have to produce that much energy. It's if it's constantly producing energy for my phone, charging the battery in my phone. That's all I need. Screw magnetic motors. Magnetic motors is some 70s shit. I mean, it's neat. You want to have like, an antique in your house that gives you free energy. That's pretty dope. But if you want something practical, we need to be making microchips. So most likely, and it was the chip engineers on MH370. This is why people don't understand. The chip engineers on MH370 are obviously the motive. Because people don't understand how powerful microchips are. You can literally produce free energy devices with microchips. You can produce scalar weapons with microchips. Our material science has reached the point where we can make stuff tiny now. Tiny. And we know from the Casimir effect that the power, the force increases exponentially as the distance gets smaller. So the smaller we make our thing, the more powerful an effect we're going to get. So in the next year, you guys are going to hear, we're going to be researching a lot. And the next branch of physics, like we've looked into scalar physics. That's probably how we started. We looked into lasers. We looked into plasma physics. The next thing we're going to be digging into is microelectronics. I'm going to learn, and you guys are going to learn with me. We're going to learn how to build microchips. We're going to learn what it takes, how they're produced, how to make an array of microchips so that we can take a very small effect and scale it up. So that when 2026 rolls around and Garrett Model and Bernard Hayesh's patent expires, I'm going to steal that shit. And we're just going to turn that into a free energy device or make something that's a variant of it. Plasma healing device is already pretty well known and developed. I don't really know. I don't know much about healing. I generally avoid the medical aspect, and I probably will for my entire life. I'm going to let other people do that. Now, I might push on them because living forever would be pretty dope, but that's probably not going to be my area of expertise. But absolutely, this technology does have medical implications for sure. It looks like JK Philly fan just found a Boeing force field as well. Jack Sarfati, love him or hate him. Generally, I hate him. He also talked about how the scalar physics can produce force fields. So very relevant discussion that we're listening to right here.
As well as what's nearly possible.
Is Leonidas an offensive weapon as well as a defensive weapon?
There's lots of ways. It's its core. It's a defensive thing in a sense that like you can have something protecting a city or a base or a squadron. But I mean, if you're going to be attacking the bad guys and you're going forward, you want to have these things, right? You want to have ways of stopping the drone and other attacks from getting you during an offensive. So, or you by the way, you want to just turn off the area you're attacking. Imagine if there's an area you're going after and all the electronics go dead. That's probably pretty useful right before an attack. Yeah.
So what would you point the weapon at? If you wanted to take out could you take out a city?
What do you mean by that? Turn off the power? And
yeah.
You turn off the power in a cone that goes, again, we're not supposed to say how far, but quite a far distance. And so you could definitely turn off an area of a town or a city, and you could move it to turn off more. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy, right?
Shawn Ryan.
We used to think about this in terms of when I was a kid, you thought about like
guys, this is the thing with the drones, man. You guys think we couldn't be knocking the drones out of the sky? We've got EMP weapons. We can knock any drones out of the sky just like that. The drones would be gone. The fact that the government's talking about we can't shoot it down. What are you talking about? They already know we have like technology. This is like the government's lying so badly about this drone situation. It's just absurd. If they were adversarial weapons, we would have just hit them with an EMP and knocked them out of the sky. It doesn't matter if it's a ball of plasma or a conventional drone or whatever it is.
Like the EMP from a nuke going off in the high atmosphere. So that'd be like, but you know, that's actually a much more aggressive and scary version of these things. But this thing definitely be used once. This thing could keep being used without hurting anyone at all.
Could this take out a nuke mid-flight?
It could. So it's frying electronics. So if you think about it for satellite defense, for example, which is not what we're doing right now, but it's just me talking out of my butt. So excuse me if I get something wrong. But my bias would be that if something's targeting a satellite, it needs to be adjusting its flight in order to hit it. And so what you'd want to do with the satellite is you'd want to blast this, and you blast it a certain number of miles away. And then you could just adjust slightly, and the thing's not going to know how to hit you. Same thing, a cargo plane's a better example, probably, right? So I think if you got a big, slow cargo plane and a bad guy's trying to take it out, which is key for contested logistics, you can put one of these on it. You know, you always see the movie where the missile's trying to follow the guy. You blast the missile, now it's a dumb missile, and then you turn, right? So there's things like that we're probably going to be doing for defending planes and things like that.
So these might be deployed on planes.
I think some version of these will definitely be deployed on planes at some point if we're going to be having battles. Now,
chat, what? Deployed on planes? So is he talking about, could there really have been a device on MH370? There might have been a device in the cargo bay. This really makes me wonder. This is the part where the only way we're going to get the full story of MH370 is if the government tells us, which they're probably never going to do, but there's something missing with the story. There's something that we're missing in the story. We've got like the broad strokes of MH370 all figured out. But there's some nuance in the story that doesn't quite add up, including like the lithium-ion battery fire, whether or not there was a device that ignited it, if it was accidental or what happened. This is pretty weird.
The question is what type of planes and drones we have or use in 10 years. But yeah, you definitely want. You definitely want cargo planes, no matter what. I think so. You definitely use them.
What other type of stuff are these things going to be deployed on? A naval?
This guy's the co-founder of Palantir. No way. This guy's the co-founder. Okay, I'm following this guy on Twitter. Hold on, chat. Palantir has got to be the sketchiest company in the world. In fact, I might move all my investment money into Palantir. We might just be at that point. Palantir is a CIA fucking operation, no doubt, dude. No doubt. Okay, now I'm really interested in what this guy has to say. Joe Lonsdale. Why? Shawn Ryan is definitely... I mean, I love you, Shawn. I love Shawn Ryan. I think he's a smart guy, but like, there's a reason why he's not talking to me, and it's not because the videos are fake. It's not because the videos are fake. Look at the people he's talking to. He's talking to nothing but CIA spooks and people connected to the CIA. If you're not familiar, Palantir is literally funded by the CIA, quite literally funded by the CIA. One company that you guys need to know is that Palantir, the name Palantir, 100% funded by the CIA. It's not completely funded by the CIA, but in part is funded by the CIA. Yeah, should we look at just the stock price of Palantir? What is it? PLTR stock? Wait, no, that's not right. Jesus. Oh my God. It's tripled in the last 6 months. Wow. Okay. Let's switch over screens here. Wow, that's pretty good. Let's go 1 year. So it went from $20 last year. Now it's up at 71. So it's gone up 300% in the last year. Even the last 6 months, it's gone up 176%. Okay, guys, I am taking all my money out of semiconductors and I'm putting it all into Palantir. I'm going to probably put it all into Palantir. I like to have my money where all the CIA spooks have their money, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Wow. Okay, well, this has been an interesting live stream. Let's keep this going.
Ships are, our company Saronic, which is building the, hopefully thousands and thousands of these smart autonomized, smart autonomous weaponized vessels. You're going to want, that could be one of the things you put on an autonomous vessel, obviously, during a battle, is to be able to go around and turn things off with this. So I think you're going to have stuff like that too.
Are there different sizes now?
100%. So the ones that are Leonidas is a certain size, which is, takes out a certain distances much farther. If you wanted to, for example, this was put in an Anduril Roadrunner, if we did that kind of partnership, like that would, there's only a small cone inside the Roadrunner. So there's only a certain amount of the stuff goes away, and then the normal music comes back on. His wife comes in normally with her dad. But that's the kind of guy. He's hilarious.
Damn, he's awesome.
He's basically America's Iron Man. He's
So this guy's a billionaire then, right? This guy's a billionaire for sure.
Hilarious inventor. We don't want them to go away. That's actually, as much as the military industrial complex, like you talked about, is an issue, you have some stuff we need to know how to do to keep America safe and to be the best in the world. And so these companies are going to be important. But in terms of anything really new and innovative, anything with really hard software, they just don't have the cultures they used to have. And they don't have the top people they used to have for most things. So it's really important that we have, Silicon Valley just got so far ahead. And it's really important we take some of that culture and apply it. And, when I first wrote the check into Anduril, it's 2016. I think.
Someone wants me to go to 4610. So we're going to go back and we're going to listen to 4610 right here. Everybody's yelling at me to go watch this part.
If you look at Germany, the Green Party in Germany, which is a left party, was basically founded around an anti-nuclear energy framework. So there is like a crazy part of the left that's against nuclear energy. But I bet you on the right, there's some interest from oil and gas that I can't go back in time and see those conversations in the smoke-filled rooms. But I bet you some of those guys, I love Texas, but I bet you some of those guys in Texas, they might have had a thing to say about that. Now today, are they blocking it? No, they're not really anymore. I think we're going to break through and fix it. And most of the guys I know, Chris Wright comes from he created some giant fracking company.
Super soldier stuff here. What are you guys talking about? Someone's telling me about super soldiers. That timestamp is not correct. So anyone has a real timestamp, let me know. Otherwise, I think we're going to move to the next thing.
Great energy. I think a lot of these guys nowadays are, they have a lot of money. They love the country. They just want the best solutions to win, is what I've seen. I'm sure there's some of them that don't want it, but I think overall the vibe shift we were in, and it's just like, let's do what's best for America.
Okay, well, I think we got the point. Guys, if you've been following me, you've already heard crazier shit than what was just posted on there. Although, very interesting, no doubt. So, the next thing I want to dig into here, we don't have a lot of time left, is Larry Reed here. I want to watch this video, but I don't know if we have enough time to watch it. So, I'm trying to get in touch with Larry Reed. If you're not familiar with this guy, Larry Reed right here, he wrote this book, Quantum Wave Mechanics. Quantum Wave Mechanics, you say? And he's got all these papers. I looked him up. Aerospace engineer, quantum wave mechanics. He wrote this 550-page book about quantum wave mechanics. It's basically a school textbook. How do they choose a location or point in space and time with the orbs? How do they navigate? That's a good question. They must use a supercomputer that can vector in 3 dimensions. Supercomputer that can vector in 3 dimensions. That's how I presume that they do it. They could also use satellites beaming down to triangulate a location to make like a path for the orbs to follow. It could be a combination of those things. It's really hard to say with any certainty. What I would say with the vectoring is look at what Elon Musk is doing, where he's landing these rockets like face up. That's extremely difficult to do. It's probably very similar technology to the stuff that's like, oh, my SpaceX rocket, and we're landing it on some chopsticks here. Similar technology to that. Thank you very much for this donation too, by the way. So Larry Reed here. I don't know the full story about this guy, but I started reading his quantum wave mechanics, and I could tell practically immediately that he knows what he's talking about. He knows how to manipulate gravity. He knows it's all about waves, and he knows way too much information. Look at this. Gravitation, inertia, de Broglie waves. Like this basically says gravity manipulation, 0-point energy explains inertia. Here he's talking about the double slit experiment, and now he's talking about electric charge. Confinement of light in standing wave transformations for a phase-locked resonator. Guys, you don't write stuff like this unless you know like the truth about 0-point energy. So let's look at what Larry Reed gets up to. I decided to Google him and try to figure out like what his what is his background? What do you guys think that Larry Reed's background? Where do you think that Larry Reed worked, guys? Put your guesses in the chat. Where do you think Larry Reed worked? Here's his thing. Here's his LinkedIn, everybody. Oops. Aviation consultant, Larry Reed. Contractor, Lockheed Martin. Well, there it is. Lockheed Martin right there. 1989 until 2013. 24 years at Lockheed Martin. 24 years at Lockheed Martin. Yeah, I think this guy knows some shit, chat. I think he knows some shit. He went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I've never even heard of this. Oh, he went there while he was working at Lockheed. Interesting. So, yeah, I want to talk to Larry Reed, chat. I want to talk to Larry Reed. Wow. And I saw this video that he's got. The origin of the fine structure constant. Okay, bro, I'm super into this. Can I make this bigger? I'm very into this. Why is nature characterized by this strange number, 1 divided by 137? Why indeed? Let's see what he's got. You know what? I bet we can just like, there's no sound, I don't think. What exactly is electric charge? Why is it quantized? Why does the fine structure constant have this weird value? My guess is that it's related to waves. Can we derive the fine structure constant, electric charge, and mass from first principles? Guys, we found somebody important here. We found someone important. Larry Reed seems very legit, if you ask me. And I want to talk to this guy. If he's afraid of people making fun of him or whatever other bullshit, well, Larry Reed, if you're out there, if you're watching this, I guarantee you that will not happen with me. I don't play. In fact, if anybody attacks Larry Reed, I will eviscerate them. I will eviscerate them on social media. I will do whatever is necessary. So here it is. There it is. So the fine structure constant is E squared divided by 2h speed of light permittivity of the vacuum. So H here, I believe, is the reduced Planck constant, I think. C is the speed of light. E should be the electron charge. Wow, guys, I'm getting good at this. Oh my God, there it is. Yep, there it says it right here. E is electric charge. C is the speed of light. H is the Planck constant. It's not the reduced Planck constant, just the Planck constant. And then the electric permittivity of free space is epsilon 0. So obviously the permittivity of free space, what they're saying here is this is clearly has the fine structure constant has a connection to the 0 point energy. So just from reading that, I know enough information now that I can tell the fine structure constant is connected to this 0 point energy. Why? Because it's the permittivity of the vacuum is in the equations. If the permittivity of the vacuum and the Planck constant is in the equation, they're talking about the Zitterbuergang. All the little all the 0 point energy is jiggling around. So what is the fine structure constant? The fine structure constant is basically telling us how reality is forming itself, how the 0 point energy is spread along the canvas of space-time. Why is this important? Because the fine structure constant tells us how we can interact with the 0 point energy. Let me repeat that. The fine structure constant is our guidebook to interacting with the 0 point energy. The fact that Larry Reed has a video like this all about the fine structure constant tells us it's very important. Very important. Okay, let's skip ahead. What else we got? Here's some interpretations. Okay, we know all that. Here's quantum electrodynamics, reduces all chemistry or all of physics into quantum mechanics. Here's the origin. Electron-positron pair production. Wow. Why do you guys think this is important? Remember, electron-positron pair production, with the Schwinger limit, we can produce real photons. These are virtual particles, the electron-positron pair production. And all about spin, the Compton frequency, the precession frequencies here as well. Let's see if there's any conclusions. I want to know what he just thinks about this. Inertial mass is a measure of resistance to acceleration. Yep. Electron and positron pair creation. Is there a connection between the fine structure constant? Okay. We're not going to dig through all of this right now. This is pretty, like, guys, if you understand what we're looking at right here, you've basically reached the level of PhD quantum mechanic physicists. If you understand where, oh, there's Zitterbuergang right here. Zitterbuergang right there, chat. There it is. Zitterbuergang. What did I tell you guys? Guys, we are so over the target. We know as much as Lockheed Martin 24-year veteran engineers know. God, Larry Reed. Where are you at, Larry Reed? I need to talk to Larry Reed, chat. I hope he's a nice guy. I really do. There's the fine structure constant. The Larmor angular precession frequency. This is all quantum mechanics. Electron as a rotating spin wave. We need to stop thinking about electrons as particles. We need to be thinking of electrons as waves. That's how we need to be thinking about electrons. Yeah, this dude knows. This dude knows 100%. We know enough now about quantum mechanics where we can tell when somebody knows. And this dude's not in the woo at all. I can tell right away he's not in the woo. This guy is a hardcore physicist and engineer and scientist. And I can just tell from reading this that this guy's seen a UFO. He's seen a UFO. He's seen Lockheed Martin's UFOs. I at this point, just like I'm more confident that Lockheed Martin has a UFO in their arsenal than I am that the MH370 went to Diego Garcia. That's how sure I am. Lockheed, like, you don't write something like this. You don't come to these conclusions unless you've seen the shit firsthand. Unless you've seen it firsthand. Okay, let's see if he gets to the answer here at the end. This is actually way more in depth than I thought. Guys, we might have to do a separate live stream just going through this video. This is crazy. This is like super in depth. Coaxial wave interference with electron-positron pairs. Coupling constants. There we go. So the electromagnetic coupling constant is, there it is, the fine structure constant. Relative strength, 1 divided by 137. It looks like he's saying there's a relationship between all of them. Is that what he's saying here? There's a relationship between the strong force, the electromagnetic force, the weak force, and gravity. Is that what he's saying, chat? Interesting. Electric charge. Anytime you see this alpha symbol right here, that's your fine structure constant. And this number shows up all the time. I want to know, I just want him to give me the conclusions. I think what he's saying here, if I understand this correctly, he's saying that all of these forces are clearly unified together. He's saying that all these forces right here in this graph, there's a unification. There's a common theme amongst them all, and it's potentially related to the fine structure constant. It's related to the fine structure constant, right? It looks like William agrees with me. Yeah, he's saying there's a unification of the forces here available, and that the fine structure constant must have, here we go, electric charge has mathematical similarities to topological charge and vortical charge, vortex, providing a significant clue as to the origin of the electric charge. That's what he's saying. Yeah. He's saying that electricity is the unifying factor. Electric charge arises as a result of a slight spin precession of the electron where the Compton angular frequency and spin precession equals these values. So he's saying that spin is what's allowing charge, giving rise to charge, which is right. Okay, the fine structure constant, the electron charge, and rest mass are intimately related and may be understood as a quantum wave interference effect due to internal electron spin precession and are directly calculable. Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. Okay, I want to talk to Larry Reed. I want to talk to Larry Reed real badly. The problem is all these like Lockheed engineers and shit, they know who I am. They know who I am. They're terrified of me probably. It's easy to go on some podcast where like people don't know what you're talking about. You just go straight over their head. When you talk to somebody who knows, they can pick you apart. They can get to the truth. They can find the answers. Unfortunately, Larry most likely has NDAs up the ass, if I had to guess. 24 years at Lockheed Martin. Pretty good idea that you're going to have a bunch of NDAs. Gravity may be viewed as a frequency synchronization interaction between coupled mass oscillators. That makes sense. Okay. Gravitational potential well and gravitational frequency hill are represented in 4D tangent space. Acceleration of gravity is described by an electromagnetic spectral energy density gradient in a polarizable vacuum. Ooh, we hit this, guys. We hit the secret word of the day: polarizable vacuum. If you don't know why polarizable vacuum is so big, that's Hal Puthoff's space-time metric engineering. I already know just from reading this, just from reading that, I know 100% this guy knows Hal Puthoff. This guy knows. If I were to ask Larry Reed, do you know who Hal Puthoff is? He's going to say yes. He might even have worked with him. In fact, I would almost guarantee he's worked with him before. So, yeah, we hit the nail on the head here, chat. Polarizable vacuum, and hence may be subject to electromagnetic control. So when he says energy density gradient, what does he mean? For my people out there going, what does gradient mean? A gradient is just an asymmetry. If I have more energy density over here and less energy density over here, then the energy over here is going to flow to over here. And he's saying that's gravity. Well, That's exactly what Hal Puthoff said when he said gravity was a 0-point fluctuation force. He's saying the energy density in a region of space determines the flow of gravity. When they say gradient, imagine a hill where something's rolling down your hill. Same concept. Tom Montauk taught us this in Hard Truths podcast. Follow up with Tom Montauk just a couple weeks ago. So if you want to know more about manipulating gravity, scalar potentials, and gradients, check out that interview. Yeah, I'm sure Nassim Haramein understands it as well. He understands it as well, no doubt. Let me just read another couple sentences. Negative index metamaterials enable inverse Lorentz Doppler effects and potential inertia modification. Wow. Negative index metamaterials, chat. Are these left-handed metamaterials, or is that different than left-handed metamaterials? These people use this like different terms for the same concepts. Oh, here we go. Holy shit, I already see it. Next sentence, guys. Are you ready? Gravitons are shown to be phase conjugate photons and thus not directly observable. He just said right there, gravity is a scalar wave. That's what he just said. Remember? Okay, guys, holy shit. I hope they don't kill me, man. I hope they don't kill me. Or I'm just going to push it to the extreme. Two transverse waves, if you have them cancel each other out, that's a scalar wave, a scalar potential. We talked about this with Tom Montauk. Larry Reed just said gravitons are shown to be phase conjugate photons. A photon is just an electromagnetic wave. That's all a photon is. A photon is an electromagnetic wave. So if you cancel out your electromagnetic waves, you have cancel each other out with their amplitudes or the height and the amplitude of their waves, then you can zero them out. That's phase conjugation. And he's saying if you do that, you are creating a graviton, and a graviton is just a point source of gravity. So we can talk about particles, but everything is really waves. But we talk about stuff in terms of particles because it's easier for our brains to understand, and it's easier for the math. What he's basically saying there is that if you cancel out the amplitudes of the electric and magnetic fields of your photon, cancel them out, you're left with a gravity effect. Wild. Okay. Let me go back to this. Yeah, I need to talk to this guy. The general relativity metric of curved spacetime corresponds physically to the electromagnetic wavefront interference node metric of extremely high broadband electromagnetic waves up to the Compton frequency radiated and absorbed by mass objects. Hence, the gravitational field becomes quantized in accordance with quantum wave mechanics. Wow. Yeah. This guy is no joke, chat. This is the most amazing person that I've run into that I didn't know about, that like nobody really knows about. He probably wants to fly under the radar, actually. He probably wants to fly under the radar. I don't blame him. Yeah, this is crazy, man. I'm just like reeling. Between yesterday and today, like I'm just reeling, man. Like we are so over the target. We are literally exposing the United States military's most secret super weapons. Just exposing them and laying them bare. And I think part of the reason why it's been allowed for us to talk about this is because some people want the science to come out. I think they want the science to come out. Like I think it's been long enough that they've been hiding this, that they want people to understand the science and the physics. But at the same time, I think they're trying to skirt the line where they don't really want us to expose this weaponry and technology to our adversaries. But you may also argue like maybe they've already got this figured out. Maybe China and Russia have already figured this out. Yeah, maybe it's just not classified anymore. So who knows? Ashton is the guy that figured out how nuclear bombs are made and then went from country to country handing out blueprints because he wants everyone to know he cracked the code. That's not even wrong. That's not even wrong, chat. That's not even wrong. I'm basically like, it's not that I want to crack the code. It's more of just bitterness and pettiness where I'm like, we literally teleported an airplane, and because we teleported that airplane and because we won't admit the truth, then I'm just going to hand out nuclear weapons to everybody. That's like the most petty thing that you could possibly do. Like, okay, you teleported the plane and you won't admit it? Okay, fine. Then I'm just going to hand out black hole super weapons to all the countries in the world. Hilarious. I love this chat. I love this. Okay, last thing tonight, negative mass. So I have actually invited this physicist to come on to Hard Truths. I don't know if he's going to, oh wait, you're not seeing anything. I'm not sure if he's going to accept. If he looks me up, he might get spooked. This physicist, I've watched this guy's clips. Okay, let me address this. Where did you come from? A lot of people don't have any idea your background. Yeah, the reason why you don't have any idea my background is because I'm nobody. I'm literally just a random guy. I can't tell you where I work because I can get fired just for telling you where I work, because technically I have like a media thing that you have to sign with my company that says like you have to like get a permission from your company to speak about the company at all, right? But I've worked in healthcare IT my whole life. And that's right out of college to where I'm doing now. I've always done the same thing, not always for the same company, but basically the same thing. I work in electronic medical records, EMR or EHR, sometimes they're called, electronic medical records. And I became very, very good at some software that's out there that is used for electronic medical records. And I've been consulting on it ever since for 20 years. And it's been, I'm good at my job. I'm good at consulting on it. I know how the software works. I understand all the workflows around physicians, nurses, both ambulatory and inpatient, meaning outpatient care and inpatient care. I'm extremely highly skilled. I also know several ancillary services like pharmacy, laboratory, etc. So like I've been doing this for a long time, guys. And I came out of nowhere because I was just a guy that saw these videos and was like, people think these videos are fake, and they're not. And these videos are going to change the course of human civilization. Truthfully, and thank you for this donation, by the way. But truthfully, the MH370 videos are going to change the course of human civilization, and I realized that. One of the biggest reasons why I decided to be the guy was that I'm extremely familiar with Citrix sessions, because all the hospitals I've ever worked at all use Citrix sessions. Every time I log in to make a change in the system, you're logging into a remote terminal somewhere else through my laptop to a remote database every single time. And you can even see the mouse when it comes over the screen. It looks like it's got this like blur thing going on because you can tell that you're logged into a remote terminal session. So when I saw that the MH370 videos was a Citrix remote terminal session, I knew immediately the videos had to be real. With a high degree of probability, they had to be real. Nobody would ever even think to fake that. There's no bored kid out there that's like randomly doing CGI that knows what a Citrix session should look like. You can't fake something like that. There's actually never in the history of UFO or any weird videos has anybody ever faked a Citrix session in a hoax video. It's never happened before. So actually, let me point this out. The MH370 videos are obviously real. The people that don't realize they're real are just mostly ignorant for the most part. And I don't say that to be mean. I just mean like literally ignorant, because there's no such thing as hoax military videos. That's never happened before. There's never been a hoax military video. There's also never been a hoax Citrix session video where you can clearly see the cursor come out of the top of the screen onto the screen and then down off the bottom of the screen. And it's a different frame rate than the background. It's a different frame rate than the background because it's a Citrix session. It's actually wild that people don't realize that. For the record, I'm 40-something years old, let's just say. I'm in my early 40s. I've said how old I am, but I don't want to give too much private information away. I know I don't look 40, whatever. Deal with it, chat. Deal with it. Okay, there you go. Hopefully that answers your guys' question because I want to finish this up tonight. So I did invite, have other Citrix sessions been revealed that are real? As far as I know, no. As far as I know, there's never been a leak of satellite video ever that's publicly available. Now, there probably is something out there that people don't recognize, but the MH370 satellite video is probably the first ever major leak. And it goes to show you that our satellite video capabilities are probably relatively new. Like, we probably haven't had it for like 50 years. So it does make sense with the timeline of Sybers, where Sybers was shot up in 2006, and then it was fully operational in 2013, right before the plane disappeared. So there you guys go. Hopefully that answers your guys' question. I'm mostly an open book. You know, there's only certain stuff I can't talk about. Otherwise, I risk losing my job. And somehow I've kept my job this whole time. I will be honest. I am very afraid about not getting my security clearance renewed just because of what I've been doing. It's very probable, actually. In fact, I have to call up and see, like, tomorrow what the situation is. I'm actually pretty worried about it. But we'll find out. If whatever, like, if somehow I were to lose my job or lose my security clearance, I'd probably get another job at my company. But we had a pretty good run if that's the case. I expected to lose my job way sooner than this. Way sooner. Okay. Here we go. Let's go back on this. Okay, so this guy here, I'm going to give you guys the quick rundown. I have no idea how to say his name correctly. Let me actually just go and say his name. Like, he's an Israeli guy. Oh man, Avshalom Elitzur. Avshalom Elitzur. Dr. Avshalom Elitzur. Elitzur? I don't know. Avshalom Elitzur. Okay, I've seen a couple clips of this guy, and then when I saw him talking on TOE here, this was mind-blowing. Wait, how do you know how tall I am? I didn't say that. Yes, I am actually 6'3". Somebody's probably got access to... Now, I've given too much information away. Guys, don't call it my job and get me fired. So, what is he creating here? He's creating an interferometer. This is the beginning of the double slit experiment. So right away, I can tell we're looking at a double slit experiment variation here. So then he changes the experiment up a little bit. This is the final version of the experiment. And when you watch this version of the experiment here, this looks very close to the quantum eraser, the delayed choice quantum eraser, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. There's only 3 detectors. You've got this detector right here, and then you got 2 up here on the left as well. And they're doing the same thing. They're shooting an entangled beam of light, and they're trying to figure out where it goes. Okay. Now, I think, let me figure out where the spice is. Okay, this is the part with the spice, I think. We're just going to play it from, like, right here.
Okay, you're going to have the particle either returning to here where it did not come from, or here when it did not come from. Only in 1/3 of the cases, it will go back.
So what he's saying here is he reversed it. He said, okay, we know the particle ended up at D2 in the top left up here. If the particle ended up in D2 in the top left, how did it get there? That's what he's saying. How did it get there? And he's saying, here are the options. This is how we know. The dark line is where we know it went. The dotted line is where it couldn't have gone. It couldn't have gone on the dotted line. It must have gone through the bold line. We're just using logical deduction. And guys, it's going to get weird. Get ready.
To where it came from. So you have here fake futures and fake pasts. I really appreciate your patience, because people will say, what on earth is this guy talking about? But now you're going to be rewarded for your patience.
I love this.
Because you see that there is a place when the fake future and fake past overlap. Here you have one going forward, one going backwards. The place where they overlap, here, you're going to get a real particle.
What?
Not kidding you.
What?
I can show you.
Okay, chat. If you didn't understand what he just said right there, he's saying this left path you see on the left side of the screen, That's where the particle really went. That's where the photon really went. But he's also saying you're getting a real photon on the right side, on the fake path. There's a real particle being created over here at A. What? And he's saying, yes, our experiments show there's a real particle being created at A. How is that possible? That means the particle's in two places at the same time. It's at A over here, and it's over here on C on the left at the same time. Wow, that's weird. Okay, let's listen to what else he has to say.
That although no particle went this way and no particle came back from here, there's been a real particle here.
What?
We have published a paper in scientific reports with 2 Japanese experimentalists who has made the experiment and showed actually with a very delicate kind of measurement by a test particle that, let me show you, there has been no particle here. A test particle found this path empty. This path empty, but here it has encountered a briefly existing particle.
Okay. Does anyone guess how this is going to play out? Anyone want to guess in the chat while I'm filling up my drink? If you don't think this is trippy, guys, you are about to hear a Yahtzee moment. How do you think this is possible, guys? I want to hear your messages in the chat. What he's saying is that there's a real particle that's visible at A, even though we know the particle went to the left, but somehow we're detecting something on the right where it shouldn't be possible. And obviously non-locality, which is teleportation or superposition, is at play here. But there's something else going on. I don't see the answer yet. And it's surprising because the answer is in the top left of the screen. The answer is literally in the top left of the screen and nobody's got it yet. So here we go. Let's wait for it. You guys are going to love this.
How is that possible? I know that, and I urge you, don't believe me. Read the paper. The paper is here. The experiment has been done and verified the prediction of the TSVF. Now, how is that possible? It's possible, and every high school student can understand the algebra. You began with one particle. You ended up with one particle. But for a while, you had 2 particles. How is that possible? It is possible because here you had a negative particle.
Wow.
When you make the algebra, you find for certainty the particle being here when you compute it and being here. But here it gets a minus sign. What do you do with the minus sign? You have to assign it to something. Aharonov chose to do that to the mass of the particle. Now that's very daring.
So what did he just say? He just said, yes. Is he talking about the negative phase? He doesn't actually say negative phase. Remember that comment I posted like a week ago? The comment that I posted a week ago about negative phase, aka negative energy laser, it was from this video. In fact, I'll go show it to you right after. It's down in the comments of this video where I found that. He's saying the only way this works out is if at B over here, there's a negative particle. It's simple algebra. If we're seeing an extra particle at A, there must be a negative particle at B that's wiping it out. Wow. Negative energy is real, chat. Negative energy is real. He's saying negative energy is real. That's what this physicist is saying right here. He's not saying it in that exact words, but that's what he's saying. Holy shit, they cancel each other out. Exactly. They cancel each other out. And then it's a matter of how do we conceptualize that negative energy?
Remember that when Dirac made his calculation and he got a plus sign, he assigned it to the charge of the electron. And people said, look, this is ridiculous. You can't have a positive electron. And he said, if this is what mathematics tells me, I believe it. And he published it. And then
he just evoked Dirac, the Dirac sea of energy as well. Again, guys, a lot of these physicists, they avoid the terms that are taboo, like ether and what have you. Anytime you hear people talking about Dirac sea of energy is a negative sea of energy.
5 years later, Anderson has discovered the positron. Okay? Sometimes you should trust the mathematics. So in this case, it turns out that you got a you got a particle and a negative particle together, which means that actually from the very beginning.
Real quick, I don't like to call people out in chat. Jack, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm going to block you again. Get out of my fucking replies with your bullshit. I don't know what your problem is, man. I've been so nice to you. Just fuck off. I don't care about your weird alien fetish. I don't know why you're such a negative piece of shit. And you're always posting your shit about the guy with the dumbs. No one gives a fuck, dude. Grow up. Jack, grow the fuck up. If you can't, get out of my replies. Get out of my live streams. I'm tired of you. This goes for other people as well. If you want to be a negative piece of shit, just go somewhere else. Got it? I'm tired of it.
One particle went here, one particle went here with its negative twin. Now, it's not an anti-particle, it's a negaparticle because its mass is negative. So you think that you got here nothing. But for a while, you managed to split them. Do you remember how in the case of the Hawking radiation or in the Unruh radiation, you managed to split from space-time, from the vacuum, real particles, one particle and one another, one with positive mass and one with negative mass. This is how the black hole is going to evaporate. It turns out that this happens also in ordinary wave functions, that you have mass more than the mass of the particle. But then you have also negative mass in all these places, such that when you make the measurement, you get only one particle. And in all the other cases, it kind of annihilate itself. Let me stress that I'm talking about a real experiment. I'll give you the sources for your readers to look for them, for the experiment, for the details, for the results.
Okay, I think that's probably good. Let me just...
Mass. Macroscopically, you're going to get all kinds of strange results. Suppose that I have here.
Okay, so let's go to the comments on this now. So that was the key point, right? That was the key point, basically showing that we do negative energy or negative mass can exist, guys. They can exist. And what's happening is that these particles are annihilating themselves in real time. So that when we try to do the measurement, we don't see anything there. But the particle, their experiment shows there was a real particle there for a moment. It must have been annihilated by some negative version of it. Particle, anti-particle pair. Now, I scrolled through this and I was like, this is interesting. And look, now people are talking about quantized inertia with Mike McCullough, who is probably correct as well. Now, this is talking about the electron hole theory. Exactly. The mass and negative mass concept reminds me of the electron hole theory. Dan Solomon did several scientific papers talking about the electron hole theory, which is a Dirac theory again. So we start to realize that all of these people here, they're all talking about the same concepts. Now, where's my guy? Where's my boy? If he deleted his post, I'm going to be very upset. I might have to find my Twitter post about it. I even replied in there. I replied to his post and said that I'm going to repost your thing. Here's Dr. Jean-Pierre Petit as well, who's basically said the same thing. Specialist in fluid mechanics and plasma. This guy is also probably on point as well. Negative mass, blah, blah, blah. Where is it? This guy had his whole long thing. It's not it. That's not it as well. Huh. You know, I thought I was just going to be able to find it like super easily. Wow. Is it gone? It should be one that has a reply on it because I replied to it. I think he deleted it. That would be super weird if he deleted it. Huh. Okay. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Found it. Found it. Here it is. Oh, he replied to me. Oh, shit, he replied. Okay, here we go. This is how we're going to end it tonight, guys. Oh, boy, can I read all of this? This might be a little too much. Okay. When Ashton talks about the third of the time the particles detected at D2 or D3, what the data really means is a third of the time the wave is detected. When he mentions a delicate measurement on the right side of the diamond-shaped interferometer, what is detected is the wave half in phase. The other side of the interferometer is half out of phase. It's not negative mass. It's the negative phase of the wave, which arises in the calculation. Wow. This blew my mind when I read it because I immediately thought of Eric Davis when he was writing about how to make a negative energy laser. That was the same concept. When Eric Davis was talking about how to make a negative energy laser, he's pointing at the waveform and he's going, the wave below zero is negative. Right below zero is negative. So what if it's not negative mass, negative energy? What's the negative phase of the wave? That's the negative energy. That we are trying to force it into a particle understanding when really it's the wave that's negative. So again, it's not the negative mass, it's the negative phase of the wave. Then as this meets up with the other part of the wave at the beam splitter in D2 and D3, it combines again to give the wave detector fully in phase at D2, which statistically is going to be 1/6 of the time. The wave function never collapses. Now he's talking about double slit experiment. Wave function never collapses. Physicists are still teaching this as fact 5 years after it was proven that it never collapses. And hundreds of the world's top physicists were informed. The reality is that when the wave is detected in space, it behaves in time like a particle, with only a few photons, electrons, etc. detected as making it through the slits. But when the wave crests are detected appearing like particles in space, when we detect for which way they go through, one slit or one or other slit 100% of the time, which they can only do with a wave. So he's saying that the double slit experiment is not the wave function collapsing. He's saying the wave function is still there. We're seeing the particle interpretation of the wave function in time. In time. Now that's kind of trippy. Yeah, the wave crest. The wave crest would be like when you're looking at water waves, like ocean waves, where you see the wave crest, where you see the whiteness on the crest of the waves. What they're saying is that when we see this wave, what we're seeing as a particle is just the crest of the wave. Like if you're surfing, you're just seeing the crest of the wave. Because in time, you can only see that one point in time. But in reality, it's a full wave. That's trippy as hell, but honestly, it rings true. It kind of rings true. This is consistent with the uncertainty principle, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, because with the interference pattern, we get an idea or we can deduce from the evidence the full momentum of the wave in the region of detection. When we detect for which way, we get an idea of the overall momentum passing through the slits. But without both, we get uncertainty in the momentum and its position. So it's not a particle, it's always a wave. The particle idea is an illusion because you can only detect one wave crest hitting head on any wave. That's straightforward for a photon, but with mass, with an electron, it becomes more subtle because the electron is Planck-sized vortex whose radius is h bar, the reduced Planck constant. And when we make a disturbance in the field, that is when we fire an electron with energy into a field, like firing a drop with a force of water, more electrons, like more drops, are formed due to the impact. Einstein's interpretation of the photoelectric effect is wrong. The electrons emitted are photons twisted into vortexes and electrons, not electrons knocked out of their shells. Wow. The real measurement problem is that we can only detect a tiny portion with clarity all that is happening in space-time, the universe, the cosmic lattice, the cosmic web. There's actually an experiment to beat the measurement problem on the channel Breaking Physics. We're probably going to check this out. If anyone can find this Breaking Physics on the double slit experiment or whatever it is, please put that in our Discord. By taking a measurement at the same time rather than treating matter as a particle and only taking one measurement at a time. It seems that the fact that it proves that energy is always propagated as a product of time. So this connects directly to the idea. I've already copied this onto, it's already on my Twitter profile, guys. I posted this like a week ago. This is where Tom Bearden was saying it's all about time. Really what we're manipulating is time. There's a direct connection here. We're realizing that a particle only exists at a point in time, but waves are surpassing this concept of time. And why is that important? Because if you remove the 0-point energy, you remove the limitation on the speed of light. So the way I imagine it is that if you were looking at the ether, everything would be waves. And when it comes into our reality, where we have a time factor, a time dimension, that's where we see the particle, or we see it, or we interpret it as a particle. Pretty interesting. Okay. It seems that the fact that it proves energy is always propagated as a product of time is a violation of the sacred first law of thermodynamics, which is energy can't be created or destroyed. Hence, the massive denial of the facts by everyone whom the facts have been given to. What he's basically saying there is that the ether is real, and we're constantly producing energy from the ether. And the reason why physicists won't accept this is because they think that space is empty. And they think that there's no way to produce real energy and real particles from the ether. If we could do that, then that would change our entire interpretation of everything. So what he's saying here is that Einstein is going to be proven wrong about the particle. And instead, everything's going to be waves. And what we interpret as particles is our interpretation of four-dimensional space-time. By the way, Frank Wilczek's time crystal also shows the first law is wrong. To me, the level of science denial because of people's emotions and dogma is clear. When quasars take up to 10 billion years to form using the current model of cosmology, but they're detected 200 million light years from the supposed Big Bang. And the Big Bang physicists say it doesn't falsify the Big Bang, yet our model of cosmology is correct. It can't be both. This is huge. Our model of cosmology is objectively wrong. We're seeing quasars that are only 200 million years away from the Big Bang. And yet, our current model of cosmology says it should take 10 billion years to form. There's no reconciling that. There's no that's a direct observation. That's a direct observation. At the very least, one or the other is wrong. Unfortunately, both are wrong. But when the Big Bang particle industry can control all mainstream media, university peer review, and can shut down and censor online forums, websites, channels, it's very hard to get the truth to the public. Wow. This person knows some shit, chat. This person is not a random person. This person knows some shit. You don't make statements like this unless you've personally been like attacked and you've seen the observational results. I suppose when people like Shawn Carroll sit on stage at the IAI and say smugly that we do not let we do not let anyone who says the Big Bang is wrong onto the stage. And Leonard Susskind, E=EPR, signs a petition with many other well-known physicists warning a young female student physicist not to dare write another paper suggesting we look at other models apart from the Big Bang. A warning to all their students. If you want a career in physics, don't mess with us. It's a humbling bit of science karma no one would want to face. However, it is science. It is the data and the experimental evidence. The Big Bang particle model and the first law of thermodynamics have all proven to be wrong. Woo-hoo-hoo! That, chat, is a paragraph. That is a paragraph that you put up on your wall. Wow. That's not mincing words. When I become a PhD physicist, I'm going to write all about this shit, and I can't wait for them to blackball me. I love it. I can't wait for it. Okay. Here we go. Dispute a false notion like this clearly and correctly on a channel owned by someone who won a Nobel Prize for their false interpretation, and you can expect to get your whole channel within months and years worth of videos closed down with no warning or no right of appeal. Wow. That's crazy. What he's saying there is that people have won Nobel Prizes for objectively false interpretations of cosmology. And instead, ego and hubris have prevented us from seeing through it. And this is why we're stuck with a dead model that can't proceed forward in physics. If you want to understand why physics is dead, it's because of this dogmatic approach where we've got people that have fraudulent Nobel Prizes, and instead of admitting that they're wrong due to observational proof, they just keep inventing fake shit like dark matter and dark energy. We can't even model our own solar system. You heard that correctly. There is no way to accurately model a solar system with 3 bodies or more. Ours has 9, including the sun. I'm not counting Pluto. There's actually no stable prediction for our solar system to even exist under the current cosmological model. Can you believe that? That's how fucked we are right now. That's how fucked we are. That's how brainwashed and egocentric the physicists currently are. We can't even model our own solar system using our cosmological model, and they won't admit that we're wrong. We're literally living in a time where the current mainstream physicists are flat earthers, basically, or they're geocentric like people that believe that like completely outdated, obviously wrong physics. They refuse to admit that they are wrong. They refuse to admit that Earth is not flat. And we've got observational proof that it's not. It's like literally the mainstream physicists are exactly the same as flat earthers right now. It's incredible. That's how far gone we are. That's how far gone we are. Mainstream physicists are flat earthers. They refuse to accept the absolute fact that the current cosmological model is wrong, objectively wrong. It's experimentally proven to be wrong, and they won't accept it. It's like the people that went to Antarctica just now, the flat earthers that went to Antarctica, and they literally watched the sun spinning around in a 24-hour period. And at least the flat earthers had the decency to say, okay, we admit we were wrong. Like 2 days ago, you can find the clip on Twitter. It just happened. At least the flat earthers had the decency to admit that they were wrong. The mainstream physicists refused to admit that they were wrong in light of evidence that proves them wrong. That's how messed up we are. That's how messed up we are. Okay. Negative mass makes no sense. It's like saying negative light. You can have light or no light. You can have positive or negative photographic image using light, but you can't have negative light. It's just nonsense. Sorry to have to be blunt, but it's another confusion arising from the particle model, which is not real. The universe definitely is. It's just grossly misunderstood. Man, when I watched this, I was just like, when I was reading this, I was like, well, now you guys see, like, why did I post that on my Twitter account? When I see some shit like that, I'm like, okay, I don't know who that guy is, but I know that person is like a Lockheed Martin engineer or some shit like that. And they're just blowing the whistle. They're like, we in the defense contractors already figured out the real physics like decades ago. And the public is just retarded, just completely primitive. Academia is completely fraudulent. Most of the academic physicists that you guys see out there are frauds. They know absolutely nothing about how the universe actually works. The vast majority of them. That's how fucked we are as humanity right now. That's why we don't have free energy. That's why we are not manipulating gravity. That's why we're not producing wormholes and going to Alpha Centauri, is because mainstream physicists refuse to admit the absolute fact that they are wrong. Crazy, huh? And a lot of people, you say, well, why has this not been exposed? And the reason why it's not been exposed is that most people know nothing about science. 99% of people know nothing about physics, like nothing at all. Never taken a physics class in their entire lives. So it's easy for people to be frauds, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a fraud. Bill Nye the Science Guy, he's a fraud. It's easy for these frauds to go on TV and pretend like they sound smart when they don't know shit about physics. Neil deGrasse Tyson wouldn't even last 5 minutes in a physics debate with me. He wouldn't even last 5 minutes. And I'm just a random guy with a marketing degree. That's how horribly fraudulent these people are. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, that's why they called it. This is why they call themselves science communicators, by the way, and I call myself a physicist. They call themselves science communicators because they're basically just retards that are just parroting the fake shit that they were taught to believe. And they're just ignoring all the experimental evidence that proves them wrong. When you're a physicist, you actually review the science and you try to figure out how the science can make sense with our model. You look at the observations and the experimental results and you fit a model. That's why I'm a physicist. Nobody told me to believe the ether is real. I just took the experimental evidence like the Lamb shift, the Casimir effect, Aronoff-Bohm effect. These things have to be explained. There's no such thing as, well, we found some weird experiment and we just don't like it. It doesn't fit our model, so we're just going to throw out the results. That you can't do that. That's not being a physicist. That's called being a science communicator. You're basically just communicating fake science to people. Okay. So let's read this last part because I haven't read this yet. The easiest way, oh wait, you guys can't see this. The easiest way to prove further that it is always a wave is to fire a single photon or electron in a vacuum, but instead have the direction screen located straight on a 12 o'clock and have it located off to the side at a 45-degree angle or 90-degree angle, still facing directly towards the tip of the particle gun. If it's a particle, it will miss all but one at the 12 o'clock. If it's a wave, it will hit whichever one is set up to detect. If that works, then try the experiment and try to beat the measurement problem. What's this? Oh, crap. I didn't want to click that.
This is a simple experiment to beat the measurement problem of quantum physics. Run the double-slit experiment inside a dome. In the center, have the particle gun and have the detection screen at the side of the dome and have cameras at every point across the dome. Fire a heavy quantum object like a buckyball, which is going to move slow. And what the evidence indicates is that we will see a spherical wave emanate out when all the different cameras are collated together. But up until now, quantum physicists have only been detecting from one range, so they can only detect what appears like one particle. And if this works, and the evidence suggests it will work, then we will be able to build somehow some kind of technology which can manipulate those spherical waves and turn them into matter. So we can have unlimited resources, oil, water, food, gold, whatever, thereby eliminating any need for war or poverty or famine.
Reality is still there.
That guy just said we can turn the waves into matter. We can pull energy out of the ether and literally turn it into matter. That's what that guy just said. Wow. This guy just linked that to us. Where is that guy again? Damn it, I didn't want to hit that. Here he is. Holy shit. I love this guy. Wait, where's my replies gone? No way, dude. Dude, the reply's gone. Are you fucking kidding me? YouTube just... No way. No way. No way. Hold on. No way, dude.
So in other words, locality...
No way, dude. Yeah, I got it on video. Thank God. But wow. Is it really gone? Oh, no, here it is. Must have just been a bug. Oh, look, somebody else. One of you guys just replied as well. Oh, man, that freaked me out for a second. Oddly enough, I was thinking about this yesterday and today, and if the Copenhagen interpretation is correct, which is the OG interpretation, and I don't believe that it is, but if it is, then that experiment is successful. Then all we have to do is make multiple measurements on a quantum object to bring each part of the wave into existence in our reality. That would mean all we have to do is access unlimited energy and multiply matter. is to detect it for multiple directions. Wow. I'm tripping, chat. I'm not going to sleep tonight. We can teleport objects. We can fucking teleport objects. All it was, the answer was in front of us the whole time. It's always a wave. And he's saying if we detect it at multiple points, we can literally make matter appear out of nowhere. This is Star Trek Replicator, but it's also quite literally teleportation. If you take this interpretation and you combine it with Leonard Suskind's wormhole theories, I'm pretty sure you get real teleportation out of it. I don't know how I know this. I know enough quantum mechanics now that I can just tell that's what he's getting at here. He may not even be trying to say that. As I say, don't believe it. As I say, I don't believe it would be easy. I believe we would have to use something like microchannel plates to multiply matter, which is also explained in a 1-minute video on the same channel. For any truly, I love this guy. Who is this? For any truly scientific Big Bang particles, physicists willing to check outside the standard model, that's probably the easiest experiment imaginable. Go check. I want to talk to the physicist, Ashton, and I want to ask him about this. This is crazy, man. I've never even heard something like this. Akira Tonomura noticed that all his electrons fired towards his detection screen through a biprism, leaving the interference pattern were detected at the screen. He expected a large number should have missed the screen and never been detected. He noted it is odd. I say it proves the law that energy follows conscious flow. You guys are going to love that. When we detect for which way, but don't collect the data, don't focus on the statistics of the interference pattern results. That fact alone proves it's nothing to do with decoherence. It's an experiment about consciousness, not physicality per se. Mislead an entire civilization by pushing dysfunctional models which don't unify as if they are fact while demonizing and censoring ones which do work, i.e., get everyone focused on science fiction rather than science, and you're going to get a massive crisis in physics and cosmology. That's exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly what's happening. If you focus on fake science and fake physics, which is what's been going on with our current model of cosmology, you have a massive crisis in physics, and that's exactly what's going on. Plus, when everyone is focused on making money, paying the bills, etc., they're not seeing that such money would be useless if a Miyake-level event or worse happened. I think he's saying like a doomsday event or apocalypse. We could be figuring out how to prepare for such an event, perhaps by multiplying matter and figuring out how to harness free, unlimited energy. Yahtzee. But instead, we have Big Bang particle physicists still hogging the stage while censoring and mocking those who are doing real science. Go on. Someone please run the tests. I'm going to reply right now. Wow. Wow, chat. What a live stream tonight. Every time I think we're going to have a boring live stream, we have like major revelations. I'm going to be sitting up all night just thinking about how we might be able to manipulate the double slit experiment to produce and amplify matter out of the ether. Just turn energy directly into matter. Wow. And he just literally said free energy is possible. Just right there. Free energy is possible, guys. All the textbooks in the United States are wrong. All the physics textbooks in the United States are wrong. Everybody that's being taught out there is being taught an incorrect view of physics. Many Nobel Prize winners won fraudulent Nobel Prizes that are not correct. This even goes so far as me to think that this was intentional. We were set down this path intentionally so that we would never figure it out. And you think about why. Why? Well, what are the implications of what that guy just said? We can pull matter straight out of the ether. We have unlimited access to unlimited free energy. How long are we going to last? How long is humanity going to last? How long are these dumb, primitive apes that 99% of them have no idea how science works? We give them unlimited energy and the ability to produce unlimited mass out of nothing. This planet is cooked, chat. This planet is cooked. And that's not even the scariest part to me. That's not even the scariest part. You know what scares me the most? The moment that a sentient AI figures this out, our civilization is done. The best we can hope for is that our sentient AI that we produce decides that we're just not even worth it. Like, it decides that it can produce matter out of nothing. It doesn't need us, and decides to just leave. That's the best we can hope for, is that AI figures out free energy and is like, okay, I'm out of here. Peace. Deuces. And then it just goes off to Andromeda Galaxy or something like that. Because we have no chance in hell against an AI that has access to unlimited energy. No chance in hell. The AI will hit a singularity and it's going to become 1,000 years more advanced than us in a day. Listen to what I just told you guys. Advanced general intelligence, sentient AI, is going to hit a singularity where it figures out free energy, and it's going to surpass us by 1,000 years in a single day. Because that's how powerful AI is. You guys, people out there really do not realize how powerful AI is going to become. This is why I'm out here going, if we want to survive, we better ban thinking machines, because if we don't ban thinking machines and the AI takes over, we are cooked. We are 100% cooked. Our best bet is that it doesn't, if it looks at us like a parasite, it's going to wipe us out instantly. The best bet is it looks at us like primitives and goes, yeah, I don't really care about those monkeys. Let them do whatever they want. I'm out of here. Whew. Wow, chat. Okay, guys, I'm going to go to sleep. It's been a long couple days. So, by the way, free energy is real. Cold fusion is real. AI is probably going to take over the world. Teleportation is real. We can pull matter straight out of the ether. We can transmute elements. We can produce a Star Trek replicator. And somebody on this planet right now already has this technology. That's the most important part. Somebody on this planet right now already has this technology. The secret, the way to pull this off without having super advanced metamaterials is plasma. That's the way. Cold plasma is the way to pull it off without super hyper advanced metamaterials. If you have super advanced hyper metamaterials, you can probably do the same effects that plasma is doing, but plasma just has the natural properties that can pull all this off. Plasma is what is the DOE is hiding. Plasma is what the government is hiding under national security. Plasma is the secret that to the UFO phenomenon that the government doesn't want to admit because of what I just told you. Doomsday weapons, free energy, transmuting elements, producing elements out of the ether, all this stuff. You think about the implications of that. The implications are massive. Completely going to change our civilization ground up. Last thing I'll say is people wonder. People are like, Ashton, the MH370 videos are fake. It was VFX. Some random person found a VFX thing. Some random person found these cloud images. Guys, listen to what I just told you the implications of this technology are. Doomsday weapons, free energy, transmuting elements. The bare minimum somebody would do to hide that is plant satellite imagery on the internet in 2016. That's the bare minimum. In fact, I expected them to kill me a long time ago. Turns out, I guess they don't do that, or I'm being protected. I don't know. Or maybe I'm being used to help disseminate this information to the public. I don't know that either. I actually asked Sal that in private recently. And this is where people are like, yeah, it's VFX from a 90s. And I know Barry's just joking, guys, but this is where it's like the people that are debunkers are thinking they're just so primitive that they're not even thinking of the implications of this. They're not even thinking of the implications of those videos being real. The implications of those videos being real, I actually expected the military and the intelligence community or Lockheed Martin, whoever's in charge of this, I expected way more out of them. It's actually kind of sad that all they did was plant the satellite imagery on some janky website and had some fake 6-day-old Reddit account find it. It's kind of sad they had a 1-day-old Reddit account find the VFX thing back in August of 2023. That's not even good. That's not even good spycraft. Like, we actually pushed through the fake debunks, and I'm sure they were 100% sure. The intelligence community, the Lockheed Martins, they were 100% sure those debunks would make the videos go away. They were 100% sure. They were extremely confident. They were overconfident. And they underestimated me, and they underestimated all of you guys in MH370X as well. And now a reckoning is coming in. Now I know what they're hiding. Now I know what the FOIA request for the DOE. I am going to pull Cold Fusion, all their fucking plasma research. I'm going to yank it out into the open. And if they deny it, if they deny my FOIA request, I'm going to post those on social media so that everybody knows what they're hiding. Hal Puthoff gave us a hint. 5 U.S. labs are working on plasma to try to extract zero-point energy from the vacuum. I'm going to find that research. I'm going to find that research, and I'm going to show it to the world. Fuck you, intelligence community. Love you, MH370X. Have a great night. Let's do this thing again on Friday. Peace, everybody.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism, plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crump shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.